Chapter 817. A few days later. Tan Xiu returned to Jingmen Island. After leaving Spectre in the Everlasting Feast Hall, he accompanied Gu Yan for a few days and then hurried to Qingqing Mountain with Mo and the others. Before leaving, he had contacted Long Jinglin, but the result was disappointing. Although Long Jinglin already knew Wang Tao's whereabouts after arriving at Qingqing Mountain, the other party had always avoided him. Red silk flower. It was one of the best main ingredients for refining the body refining elixir, the blood-seizing pill. It had an extremely strong compatibility and also had a terrifying fission ability. These two effects were excellent for improving the physical strength of cultivators. Tan Xiu was eager to break through to the star's tyrannical body circulation realm. He knew very well that once he broke through to the qi and blood circulation realm, he would be comparable to ordinary nascent soul stage cultivators. They rushed all the way. Tan Xiu, Mo, and the others finally arrived at Qingqing Mountain and came to a small town full of classical style. Qinglin County. Sichuan was a very remote place geographically, but its prosperity was comparable to some economically prosperous small counties in the south. There were not many permanent residents here, but it was a famous tourist attraction in the country and would welcome a large number of tourists from all over the world every season of the year. On the wide road, two taxis drove into Qinglin County. Tan Xiu, who was sitting in the second taxi, watched the scenery outside, especially the looming mountain corridor in the distance. He fell in love with this place the first time he came here. Suddenly, Tan Xiu was surprised to find that the billboards on the roadside, buses, and even the high-rise buildings in the surrounding were all hung with a poster of a celebrity. Is Zhang Xinya very popular in your county, sir? The taxi driver was a man who was not good with words, but upon hearing Tan Xiu's inquiry, his interest was piqued. A smile appeared on his tanned face as he said, more than half a month ago, the people here could only see the news about the big star Zhang Xinya on TV and computers. But ever since the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is about to open for business, the news about Zhang Xinya coming to our place has been widely reported by the media. Even the big boss of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex has spent a lot of money for publicity. Surprised, Tan Xiu said, it's just the opening of a villa district. There's no need to invite a superstar, right? There was no need to advertise it so intensely, was there? After all, this is a small county. The taxi driver smiled and said, little brother, do you think that our small county isn't worth inviting a superstar to help us? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, I just think it's a bit too exaggerated. The taxi driver said, to be honest, it's not exaggerated at all. The Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is the most upscale villa complex in Qinglin County. Many rich people from other places come here to buy villas. It's just that you don't know the location of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex, else you'd be interested in it if you had the money. Tell me about it, asked Tan Xiu. The Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is built halfway up the highest peak of Qingqing Mountain, said the taxi driver with a smile. It's not in our Qinglin County. 5 or 6 kilometers to the north from here is the foot of the highest peak of the mountain. The highest peak has been built into a high-end community with dining, entertainment, culture, and many other elements. Whoever can live there will have a status symbol. Of course, the most important thing is that the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is also within the tourist attractions of Qingqing Mountain. It's just that ordinary tourists don't have the right to enter the villa complex. Tan Xiu suddenly understood and smilingly said, it seems that the big boss who built the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is a great figure. That's natural. He's the richest man in our Qinglin County, Wang Shuigang, said the taxi driver with a smile. Qingqing Daoist Temple. Where's this Qingqing Daoist Temple? Tan Xiu's expression moved and he asked. Is it also within the tourist attractions? It's far away. It's in the Qingqing Mountain. The taxi driver shook his head. Ordinary tourists won't go there. Only a few tourists with high faith will go there to offer incense. Tan Xiu nodded and no longer asked about the Qingqing Daoist Temple. He returned to the previous topic and asked, "Did Zhang Xinya really come to your Qinglin County?" "Not yet," answered the taxi driver. "The opening of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex is on June 28, the day after tomorrow, so we don't know if Zhang Xinya has come or not." Tan Xiu nodded and shifted his gaze to the window. He never thought that he would be able to come to this small town with Zhang Xinya one day. However, he didn't plan to see Zhang Xinya, nor did he have any interest in the Emperor Ga's villa complex. It was best to avoid Zhang Xinya if possible. He was very afraid of emotional debt. Zhang Xinya was obviously interested in him. He had received more than a dozen calls from Zhang Xinya in the last few months, but he just gave a perfunctory reply every time. Qinglin County, Red Riding Hood Auto Trade City. After getting off the taxi, Tan Xiu found a tea house near the Auto Trade City's gate, while Mo Ao and Jin Shi entered the Auto Trade City. Since they wanted to travel here, it was necessary to have a car. To save trouble, Tan Xiu decided to buy 2 cars directly. Half an hour later, Long Zhenglin ran into the tea house while panting. When he saw Tan Xiu sitting by the window, he ran over and sat in front of Tan Xiu. Then, he picked up the tea that Tan Xiu had poured in advance and drank it all down his throat. Then, he said with a satisfied expression, "You finally came, big bro. I've been staying in this godforsaken place for more than a month. I've tried all kinds of methods, but I just couldn't see that bastard Wang Tao. Tell me, where's that Wang Tao now?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. "I heard that that brat directly locked himself in his house in Qinglin County after he came back from another place," said Long Zhenglin. "It's been a month or 2, yet he's like a young lady from a noble family in ancient times. He doesn't go out at all, and I can't even see his shadow. I've visited him more than a dozen times, but I was driven out by his bodyguards every time." "Are you sure he's at home?" asked Tan Xiu. Long Zhenglin looked around and found that no one was paying attention to them. Then, he lowered his voice and said, "I can't be 100% sure, but the news that he's at home is pretty much correct. I've been hiding near his house to observe almost every day these days and found 2 doctors from Qinglin County Hospital going in and out 7 or 8 times. I wanted to bribe those 2 doctors, but they didn't want to tell me what they were doing at Wang Tao's house." "Is Wang Tao very powerful in Qinglin County?" asked Tan Xiu in surprise. "He's more than powerful. He's like a crown prince," said Long Zhenglin. "His father, Wang Xuegang, is the richest man in Qinglin County. He has both money and connections, and the locals call him the local tyrant of Qinglin County." Wang Xuegang. A surprised look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He came to Qinglin County this time because he wanted to buy the red silk flower from Wang Tao. Wang Tao bought it for 12 million yuan, and he was willing to buy it at 10 times or even 100 times the price. But if Wang Tao was the son of the richest man in Qinglin County, then it was likely that he wasn't short of money. It would be very difficult to get what he wanted if he only bought it with money. "Does this Wang Tao have any special hobbies?" "Yeah, he likes women," said Long Zhenglin with a strange smile. "Women?" Tan Xiu stared blankly and eventually shook his head with a headache. He could have used a lot of women if he was in the immortal world, since brothels were everywhere in the immortal world and there were countless prostitutes in the closet. But this was Earth. Although there were some good-looking women who were willing to become prostitutes, it was not easy to find one in this small county. The most important thing was that Wang Tao wouldn't be interested in ordinary women given his wealth. "Does he have any other hobbies aside from women?" "I don't know about that." Long Zhenglin shook his head. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and slowly said, "Let's take a break today and learn about the situation here. I'll personally go to Wang Tao's house tomorrow morning and hope to buy the red silk flower. Let's use the hard way if the soft way doesn't work, eldest brother," said Long Zhenglin. "Wang Tao may be a martial artist and has a lot of bodyguards, but I believe he's far worse than you." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "We're not bandits, and we can't do things like robbing houses. Unless Wang Tao isn't a good person, we can only find a way to make a deal with him. If he really doesn't want to sell it, I'm afraid we can only leave in disappointment since he won't compromise no matter what we do. Half a day later. Tan Xiao and Long Jinglin left together and stayed in the most high-end 5-star Sunbao Hotel in Qinglin County. Long Jinglin booked a presidential suite in advance since it wasn't the tourist season. On the 12th floor. In the beige-carpeted corridor, Zhang Xiaoyu was carrying some shopping bags with a worried look on her delicate face. When she was about to reach the elevator, the door suddenly opened. Huh? Zhang Xiaoyu could clearly see a group of men coming out from the inside, especially the young man in the front. She faintly felt that he looked familiar, but she didn't want to provoke any trouble in this unfamiliar place, so she turned around and directly entered the stairs. Half a minute later. Zhang Xiaoyu quietly poked her head out from the corner of the stairs. Seeing that the group of people had already walked to the depths of the corridor, she immediately felt relieved. However, the confused look on her delicate face didn't diminish and instead became more and more intense. She felt that she should have seen that young man somewhere, but she couldn't remember where she had seen him for a while. Forget it. Let's send Xinya's clothes to the dry cleaner first. This great aunt has been in a bad mood recently. If I leave Qinglin County the day after tomorrow and the clothes haven't been cleaned, I'll be nagging again. Zhang Xiaoyu shook her head. She came to the elevator and opened the door. Just as she pressed the button for the first floor, a light suddenly flashed in her mind. I remember now. Chapter 8:18. Zhang Xiaoyu took the elevator to the first floor, but she didn't step out of the elevator. Realizing that no one was taking this elevator, she took the elevator back to the 12th floor. Carrying the shopping bag, he hurriedly ran back to the door of the 1206 presidential suite and knocked on the door. Xiaoyu, didn't you send the clothes to the dry cleaner? Why did you come back? Inside the room, Zhang Xinya was holding her phone with an earphone in one ear. Zhang Xiaoyu squeezed into the room and said excitedly, Sister, guess who I just met in the corridor? Zhang Xinya rolled her eyes coquettishly and casually closed the door with a lack of interest. She walked back to the sofa in the hall and nestled on it as if she had no bones. She put the other earphone on her ear and said listlessly, Who cares who you met? Hurry up and dry clean the clothes. If you can't get them before we leave the day after tomorrow, I'll punish you by making you stare at me while I eat. Zhang Xiaoyu threw all the shopping bags in her hand on a single-seater sofa. Then, she dashed to Zhang Xinya's side and sat down, saying with a faint smile, Sis, I dare to swear to tonight's dinner that you'll definitely regret it if you don't listen to me. Saying. She found that Zhang Xinya's earphones were very loud, so she immediately removed one of the earphones and repeated the words. Zhang Xinya helplessly said, Hurry up and tell me if you want to. I'm not in a good mood right now, so listening to songs can distract me. I saw the owner of the photo on your mobile screen, said Zhang Xiaoyu seriously. Phone screen. Master. Zhang Xinya thought about it casually. Just as she was about to put on her headphones again, her stunning expression suddenly froze. Even the hand that was just raised to her ear froze. Tang. Tanxiu. Zhang Xinya abruptly got up. She stared at Zhang Xiaoyu and hurriedly asked, You see that I'm in a bad mood, so you want to tease me? Or did you really see? Tanxiu. Zhang Xiaoyu seriously said, Sis, I dare to swear that I'm not joking with you. Just now in the corridor, I really saw the original owner of the photo on your phone screen. He was very handsome, and there were 6 or 7 men with him. Zhang Xinya was overjoyed and said, He also came to Qinglin County. Also staying in this hotel. They also live on the same floor. Xiaoyu, quickly tell me, which room is he staying in? Zhang Xiaoyu shook her head and said, I don't know which room he stayed in. I saw so many men just now and thought they were not good people, so I hid in the side. Later, I only saw their backs and didn't see which room they went to. Zhang Xinya quickly took off the earphone on her other ear and rushed out of the room with the mobile phone in her hand. She came to the empty corridor and paced back and forth for a few steps. Then, she saw Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly come out and said, Xiaoyu, go to the cashier on the first floor and ask where Tang Xiu lives. Forget it, I'll go there myself. Saying, she dashed towards the elevator. Inside the presidential suite number 1208, Tang Xiu took 2 cans of beer from the refrigerator. He threw one to Long Zhenglin and said, I asked you to inquire about the other person. Do you have any results? Wang Rui? Long Zhenglin asked curiously. Yes, it's Wang Rui, said Tang Xiu. I heard that Wang Rui is from Qingqing Mountain, but I don't know his specific origin. But that guy is very powerful and should be a rich and powerful man. His style is similar to Wang Tao's. He always brings a lot of bodyguards with him and is very flamboyant. I've inquired about him several times, but I didn't get any news about him. Long Zhenglin shook his head. I don't think he's from Qinglin County. Tang Xiu's expression suddenly moved and a thought emerged in his mind. He immediately stood up and said, you stay here and wait for me. I'm going to see that Wang Tao now. Maybe I have a way to get the bonus flower from him. A few minutes later, Tang Xiu left the hotel with Moo. He didn't see Zhang Xinya, who was asking the cashier for information at the cashier's desk. Of course, Zhang Xinya was looking forward to the cashier's reply and didn't look back to see Tang Xiu. Qinglin County's South City. It was a villa with its own entrance and courtyard, with a total of 3 floors. This kind of European-style villa looked particularly imposing. The surrounding walls were 2 meters high and inlaid with sharp-colored glass that exuded a blurred luster under the setting sun. Outside the gate of the courtyard, 2 security guards in black uniforms were puffing out clouds of smoke, smoking cigarettes, and chatting from time to time. Honk honk, the sound of a car's horn alarmed the 2 security guards inside. They extinguished their cigarettes and one of them stepped out of the shed. He looked at the brand-new black car parked outside and asked in a deep voice, what are you doing here? This is a private residence. Outsiders can't enter without permission. Mo all got off the car and ignored the security guard. He went to the back and opened the door. As Tang Xiu stepped out of the car, he looked around and then looked at the security guard and said, I'm looking for Wang Rui. The security guard stared blankly and frowned, who are you? This is the residence of our little boss, Wang Tao. Wang Rui doesn't live here. Sure enough, I know you. Tang Xiu secretly chuckled inwardly, but his expression remained unchanged as he said, I know Wang Rui doesn't live here, so I'm going to see Wang Tao first. Inform him that I'm Tang Xiu. The security guard looked at Tang Xiu suspiciously. From Mo's attitude toward Tang Xiu, as well as Tang Xiu's words and actions, he faintly felt that this young man's identity was not ordinary. After hesitating for a while, he nodded and said, wait here first. I'll go inside and ask. Inside the villa. The pale-faced Wang Tao was nestled on the sofa, exuding a lazy aura. Although his eyes were watching the TV, his pupils were slack and his eyes were unfocused. It was obvious that he wasn't watching the TV series. Young Master Wang, the security guard just came in to inform you that someone is visiting. A woman dressed in a gray robe with a capable appearance walked in and said. Wang Tao came back to his senses and asked with a confused expression, what did you say? The woman repeated what she just said and then said, I heard from the security guard that the person he was looking for was Wang Rui. But after learning that Wang Rui doesn't live here, he said that he wants to see you. Wang Tao frowned and was silent for a few seconds, then said, since he's looking for Wang Rui, then let him come in. All right. A few minutes later, Tang Xiu strode into the villa's door and saw the young man nestled on the sofa. A strange light flashed in his eyes. He was sure that this young man was Wang Tao, who seemed to be ill. Who are you? Wang Tao sat upright and looked at Tang Xiu and asked. Tang Xiu's mouth curled up and he lightly smiled. Tang Xiu of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. The Magnificent Tang Corporation? Wang Tao stared blankly and his expression slightly changed. After putting on his slippers, he stood up and smilingly said, so you're the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Tan Xiu. No wonder I felt that your name sounded familiar when I heard it. Boss Tang, how come a big shot like you came to a small place like ours? And to my house? Tan Xiu shook hands with him. After the two of them sat on the sofa, Tan Xiu said, "Actually, I came here to see Wang Rui. After all, he saved my people in the battle in the South China Sea. He also lost some of his subordinates, so I came here specifically to thank him and discuss some other matters." The South China Sea. The war. Wang Tao suddenly recalled something and hurriedly said, "You mean, my brother ran into trouble in the South China Sea because he saved your people? So he fought with those ability users?" "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded. Wang Tao looked at Tan Xiu with a bit more respect than before. Although he didn't know the specific details of the incident, he knew that those powerful figures in Qingqing Mountain suffered heavy losses because of it. As a result, his big brother, Wang Rui, was severely punished and was locked up in the mountain's dungeon to reflect on his mistakes. I called Wang Rui, but his mobile was turned off, so I couldn't contact him for the time being. Tan Xiu lightly smiled. "I heard him talking about you, so I came to Qinglin County to find you, hoping to get some news from you. Also, the elder who was with him at that time was seriously injured, so I happened to get a medicine that has a very good healing effect." In an instant, Wang Tao no longer doubted Tan Xiu's words. His big brother, Wang Rui, was indeed accompanied by an elder from Qingqing Mountain who was responsible for his safety. He heard that the elder was indeed injured after he came back. "Boss Tang, are you also a cultivator? Didn't your big brother tell me about my identity?" Tan Xiu nodded. "I'm not qualified to cultivate, so I don't know much about it." Wang Tao forced a smile. "My big brother was punished after he came back and was locked up in Qingqing Mountain's dungeon to reflect on his mistakes, so he didn't tell me about it." Big brother Tang, may I ask if the medicine you got is only effective for internal injuries?" "What's wrong?" Tan Xiu smiled. "Your condition looks very serious, but you haven't found a cure. You can see that I'm sick." Wang Tao was surprised. "How can I be a cultivator if I don't have such eyesight?" Tan Xiu said. "I can tell that the source of your illness should be in your kidneys just by looking at your complexion." "A cultivator?" Wang Tao was shaken inwardly and a horrified look burst out from his eyes. He jumped up from the sofa nearly in an instant and exclaimed, "You're a cultivator? A cultivator who can cultivate to become an immortal? It's indeed possible to ascend and become an immortal if your cultivation reaches a high level," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Wang Tao gulped down his saliva and asked with a face full of hope, "Big brother Tang, do you think I can become a cultivator? And my illness, can you help me cure it? If you can cure me, I'll definitely repay you." Chapter 8:19. As the saying goes, if you want to take something, you must first give it. Tang Xiu was secretly satisfied with Wang Tao's attitude. As long as he could cure the man's illness, it would be a great favor even if it was not enough for Wang Tao to immediately hand over the red silk flower to him, but it would still play a positive role. Tan Xiu figured out Wang Tao's illness through the diagnosis of traditional Chinese medicine. But he didn't expect that the disease would appear in Wang Tao's body. Kidney deficiency and yang deficiency. He should have symptoms of impotence and premature ejaculation. Tan Xiu loosened his hand and looked at Wang Tao with a faint smile. An awkward expression appeared on Wang Tao's face as he asked while rubbing his hands, "Is that all you can see?" "Of course it's more than that." Tan Xiu shook his head. "You've been infected with a virus similar to the venereal disease, but it's more serious than that. It should cause your lower body to begin to inflame, ooze pus, and even ulcerate. If it's not treated in time, you'll become a living eunuch, and your life will be in danger." "You're a god, big brother Tang," said Wang Tao with a pale face. "I didn't expect that a cultivator would know Chinese medicine and be so proficient in it." "You're right. I've been to several large hospitals, and the diagnosis is the same as what you said. However, they can't help me cure the infectious virus and can only temporarily suppress it with drugs. I originally planned to go to the imperial capital to seek a doctor after the opening ceremony of my Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex. If it still doesn't work, then I'll go abroad for treatment. Tan Xiu secretly felt lucky that he came to Qinglin County in time, else it would not be easy for him to find this guy if he really went to the imperial capital or abroad for treatment. I can cure this disease. Wang Tao was overjoyed and hurriedly said, I'll pay any price if you can really cure my illness, Big Brother Tang. You'll be my great benefactor from now on. Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said, You're exaggerating. I came to Qingqing Mountain this time to repay your kindness. Since Wang Rui is your brother, helping you is equivalent to helping him. Wang Tao stared blankly and awkwardly said, I think you misunderstood, Big Brother Tang. Wang Rui is not my biological brother. He's my uncle's son, a cousin of mine. Tan Xiu deliberately furrowed his brows and looked deep. Just as Wang Tao was afraid that Tan Xiu would go back on his words and was about to speak, Tan Xiu nodded and said, Even if you're not blood brothers, I can still treat you. To be honest, since I met you, I felt that we hit it off very well. Even without Wang Rui, as long as you need me, I can help you cure it. As for repayment, as long as you treat me as a friend in the future, that will be the best repayment. Hit it off. Friends? Wang Tao was shocked by Tan Xiu's words. He didn't expect that he would have such a powerful affinity. It was his first time meeting the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, yet the other party felt that he was congenial with him. How could such a great thing fall on his head? Actually, I have another identity, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I'm a doctor at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. There have been many news reports about me. You can find it if you surf the internet. Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. A doctor? Wang Tao found it a bit inconceivable. The dignified magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, as well as a cultivator, unexpectedly ran to a hospital to be a doctor. After thinking for a while, he quickly took out his mobile and began to search for the keywords, Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's doctor. After a while, a lot of reports about the hospital were clearly seen by him. Most of them mentioned the name, Young Divine Dr. Tan Xiu. Really? Wang Tao looked up and asked with a blank expression, Big Brother Tang, with your identity, how could you run to a Chinese medical hospital to be a doctor? That's right. I'm the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss and also a cultivator, said Tan Xiu. But in my opinion, there's no distinction between high and low professions. Since I have this ability, I must display it. In my spare time, I go to the Chinese medical hospital to treat patients. There are a lot of patients and wounded people who have been cured by me. Just my identity as a doctor allows me to save the dying and heal the wounded, treat more people, and help more people. Brother Wang Tao, don't you think that you're also very happy when you're helping others? Wang Tao had learned the word, helping others, since he was a child, but he had never deliberately helped others, nor had he ever felt happy when he was helping others. Tan Xiu seemed to be aware of Wang Tao's thoughts and spoke again, to be honest, I used to see those dying patients in the hospital and the wounded wailing in pain. When they were in despair and fear, I would stretch out my hand to save them. It really gave me a sense of achievement. You can imagine that there are injured people lying in front of you, covered in blood, but you still manage to save their lives in the end. You can then face their grateful eyes, and some of them even want to kneel down and kowtow to thank you. How happy would you be? Do you think you're happy? Along with Tan Xiu's words, such a scene appeared in Wang Tao's mind. A few seconds later, he woke up from his fantasy and the smile on the corner of his mouth slowly disappeared. Indeed, I'm very happy. Tan Xiu smiled and said, let's make another example. Since I feel that you're a kindred spirit and I feel that you can be my friend, I feel happy when I have the ability to cure you when you're ill. In other words, if you're a very capable doctor and you cure your loved ones when they're seriously ill, won't you feel happy and satisfied? Wang Tao was completely touched by Tan Xiu's words. He didn't expect that Tan Xiao would be so sentimental that he even regarded him as a loved one. We're definitely brothers. Wang Tao looked at Tan Xiao and seriously said, I won't say anything about repaying you. Please treat me, Big Brother Tang. Regardless of whether you can cure my illness or not, you'll always be my brother in the future. I dare not say anything else, but I'll definitely do anything for my brother. Good. You're a man of character. I really didn't misjudge you. Tan Xiao laughed aloud. Shortly after, Tan Xiao took out a pen and paper and quickly wrote a prescription. He handed it to Wang Tao and said, tell your men to buy the herbs according to this prescription. Remember, you must buy high-quality medicinal herbs, preferably wild ones. I'll start decocting Chinese medicine for you after you buy them. Apply it to the infected parts and you'll be able to remove the infectious virus. Having said that, he wrote another prescription and handed it to Wang Tao again, saying, the medicinal herbs required don't need to be particularly expensive. You can buy a lot of them with just a few hundred yuan. I'll cook it for you after I buy it. It can nourish your kidneys and treat the symptoms of kidney deficiency and yang deficiency. I dare not say anything else, but as long as you drink a few of them, it can greatly improve the quality of your sexual life. Drinking it for a month can make you change your bride every day and become a groom every night. Furthermore, you'll be the groom multiple times a night. That's great. Wang Tao was overjoyed and looked at Tan Xiao with particularly fiery eyes. After giving the 2 prescriptions to the woman and instructing her to buy the herbs herself, Wang Tao personally took care of making tea. He also asked his friend to bring back the best Cuban cigar from abroad and personally lit it for Tan Xiao. Big Brother Tang, since you've come from afar, just stay here. We brothers hit it off the first time we met, so I want to get closer to you. It's fine if you want to stay here. We brothers have a lot of time to meet each other in the future, said Tan Xiao with a smile. But I can't leave for the time being. I must stay here with you. Even if you drive me away now, I can't go. Although Wang Tao didn't want to drive Tan Xiao away, he still looked confused upon hearing it and curiously asked, why? You want to wait for my big brother here for the time being? Didn't you say it before? Tan Xiao snappily said. Your big brother is locked up in the mountains dungeon. How can I wait for him here? I'm staying here for the time being to wait for your people to buy the herbs. I'm going to boil the Chinese medicine for you myself. Wang Tao suddenly came to his senses and awkwardly said, look at this pig brain of mine. It's true that I'm smart all my life but muddle-headed this time. Big Brother Tang, we brothers hit it off the first time we met today. I'll order my people to prepare good wine and dishes later. Let's not go home until we're drunk. Let's drink tea and eat dinner tonight. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, let's forget about drinking wine. Big Brother Tang, could it be that you think the wine I prepared is not good enough? Wang Tao quickly said. It's true that there's a big gap between it and the god's nectar produced by your magnificent Tang Corporation. You're really smart all your life but muddle-headed this time. Tan Xiao helplessly said, I think you just like to indulge in flights of fancy and blindly think. Why don't you drink wine? That's because you're going to drink Chinese medicine today. How are you going to drink Chinese medicine if you're drunk? How are you going to cure your illness? Instantly, Wang Tao was petrified. His face was as red as a monkey's butt and he couldn't get over the awkward atmosphere for a while. Outside the courtyard, the woman who had just walked out of the courtyard with 2 Chinese medicine prescriptions saw a Mercedes-Benz MPV coming from a distance. The familiar license plate made her instantly realize that the big boss had arrived. Sure enough, as the door opened, Wang Shuigang, who was wearing a black suit, came out of the car. He looked at the woman and asked, Little Tao, are you home? He's at home, said the woman quickly. Wang Shuigang nodded and was about to enter the door when he suddenly stopped and asked, what are you going to do? There's a guest at home. Young Master Wang asked me to get the medicine according to the prescription given by the guest, said the woman. What guest? Wang Shuigang frowned and asked. I don't know him. The woman shook her head and said, I wasn't there when young Master Wang talked to him. Wang Shuagang's brows furrowed deeper and he said with dissatisfaction, give me the prescription. The woman quickly handed the prescription to Wang Shuagang. She knew that this big boss in front of her used to be a barefoot doctor. Because he coincidentally cured the illness of a big shot in the city, he began to have a meteoric rise. Chapter 820. Wang Shuagang took the 2 prescriptions. When he read all the names of the medicinal herbs on them, his face instantly turned gloomy. He clenched his fists, causing the 2 prescriptions to be crumpled. That unfilial son, got a venereal disease? The woman's expression changed. She immediately replied with a bit of fear and trepidation, the doctor said that he's just infected with a virus, not a venereal disease. But what? Wang Shuagang angrily shouted. But that virus is even more powerful than the venereal disease virus. Even the specialist doctors in some large hospitals can't treat it, the woman quickly said. Although, the person who wrote these 2 prescriptions for young Master Wang is a bit unreliable, but I don't dare to question him since young Master Wang asked me to buy them. Wang Shuagang snorted angrily. He took the 2 prescriptions and strode into the courtyard. When he came to the villa's living room, his eyes just glanced at Wang Tao and then fell on Tan Xiu. Are you the Chinese medicine practitioner who wrote these 2 prescriptions? Wang Shuagang stood in front of Tan Xiu and asked in a deep voice as he stretched out the 2 prescriptions. Tan Xiu frowned and was about to speak when Wang Tao hurriedly stood up and shouted, What are you doing, Dad? Big brother Tang is my friend, not your subordinate. Don't talk to my friend with such an attitude. Wang Shuagang turned his head and glared at Wang Tao, shouting, Shut the hell up. You're so young, yet you're educating your father. Humph. You're not doing your job properly. Not only did you flirt with women, but you even infected me with a venereal disease. I'm not done with this matter. Just wait and see how I'll deal with you later. Wang Tao's face turned pale. But being reprimanded by his father in front of Tan Xiu made him lose his face and immediately said aloud, Dad, do you know who this friend of mine sitting in front of me is? It's indeed my fault that I got infected with this disease. I promise I won't act recklessly in the future, but you can't talk to my friend with such an attitude, can you? Friend? I think he's just a bunch of scoundrels. There are so many swindlers these days. You're still too naive. I'll give you a check, lest you get cheated by others. Furthermore, look at his age. How does he look like someone who knows Chinese medicine? Wang Shuagang sneered. Tan Xiu got up and lightly glanced at Wang Shuagang. Then, he looked at the furious Wang Tao and indifferently said, I'm indeed a swindler. I didn't expect to be seen through so easily. Since your father thinks that I don't have the ability and that I came here by cheating, then I can only leave with my tail between my legs. Wang Tao hurriedly stopped Tan Xiu and said with an apologetic expression, Big brother Tang, my dad doesn't know your identity. Please don't be angry. Finished. He looked at Wang Shuagang again and shouted angrily, Dad, I know you judge people by their appearance, but I can tell you for sure that this big brother Tan Xiu in front of you is definitely not a liar. Big brother Tang. He's younger than you, isn't he? You actually call him big brother? Wang Shuagang's anger was replaced by disbelief. I'm calling him big brother, but I'm actually trying to climb up the social ladder with him. You're also an old man in the business world. Don't tell me you really don't know him. Take a closer look at him. Which company is the most popular in the country right now? Wang Shuagang stared blankly. It was the first time he saw his son so uncompromisingly angry at him. He furrowed his brows and carefully thought about it. Then, he sneered and said, There are a lot of popular companies in the country now. Who knows which one you're talking about? He's Tan Xiu, the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation and the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Dad, do you really think that someone with such an identity like Big Brother Tang will come to our house to deceive me? Wang Shuagang stared blankly for a moment. He immediately took out his mobile and quickly searched for the name, Tan Xiu. Quickly, he found the photo of the key name. When he slightly compared it, his complexion greatly changed. A look of shock appeared on his face, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Wang Shuigang wanted to speak, but he didn't know what to say. If he hadn't recognized Tan Xiu's identity, he could have continued to flare up. But the young man in front of him was indeed the big boss of the famous magnificent Tang Corporation, the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Tan Xiu. He was a bit restless inside. A proud expression appeared on Wang Tao's face as he said, "Dad, Big Brother Tang actually came here to find my brother. However, he's still locked up in the dungeon of the Qingqing Monastery, so he stayed to treat my illness. You also know my brother's identity. Big Brother Tang and my brother are also very good friends." Wang Rui's friend. Wang Shuigang finally understood why the famous big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, Tan Xiu, would come to this small place in Qinglin County. He also understood why he appeared in the residence of his good-for-nothing son. In a flash, an awkward expression appeared on his face. He covered his mouth with his fist and coughed dryly. Then, he let out a hollow laugh and said, "Tang. Boss Tang, I was rude just now. It's because my good-for-nothing son is infected. Sigh, it's all my fault. You're a great man, so please don't lower yourself to my level. In fact, I've long heard of your great name. It can even be said that it's like a thunderclap piercing my ears. I've long wanted to visit you, but I'm just a small businessman, so I'm afraid that I'm not qualified enough, so." Tan Xiu shot him a cold look and said, "Wang Tao and I hit it off the first time we met and have become very good friends. Since you're his father, I won't lower myself to your level. Also, since you've recognized me now, you should know that I'm also the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Those big hospitals can't cure his illness, but I can. If you don't want to delay your son's illness, tell someone to buy the medicinal herbs according to the prescriptions." "Yes, yes, yes." Wang Shuigang hurriedly called the woman who came in and handed her 2 prescriptions. Then, he ordered, "Hurry up and buy the herbs. Be sure to buy the best ones." The woman originally didn't believe in Tan Xiu's identity as a Chinese medicine practitioner. But the unforeseen event in front of her finally made her realize that this young man had a very high status. He should be a big shot that even a big boss couldn't afford to offend. After receiving the 2 prescriptions, she didn't dare to delay and hurriedly left. Wang Shuigang turned around and looked at Tan Xiu again. He then said with a smile, "Boss Tang, you're really a man who does great things. The Prime Minister has a big heart, and it's worth me to learn from you. But I don't know why you're looking for my nephew." "Dad." Wang Tao hurriedly called out. Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and indifferently said, "Since you're Wang Tao's father and a member of the Wangs, I don't want to hide it from you. Wang Rui saved my people in the South China Sea some time ago, so I came here specifically to thank him. Further, I'm not only the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, but also the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I'm also a cultivator. Others may not know about the situation of cultivators, but I think you should be very clear about it as a member of the Wangs, right?" "A cultivator?" Wang Shuigang's eyes turned as big as a bell as he involuntarily exclaimed. He staggered back a few steps with a face full of shock. "I'm telling you because of my relationship with Wang Rui," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "But I hope no one else will know about this except for you." Wang Shuigang hurriedly waved his hand and said, "No, no. Only the 3 of us know about this. We, father and son, will never tell anyone else." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "You don't need to worry about Wang Tao's illness. I guarantee that he'll recover within 7 days. I'll decoct medicine for him later, so you can leave if there's nothing else." Wang Shuigang could see the indifference in Tan Xiu's expression and was extremely regretful. However, he was finally able to see this great god, Tan Xiu. How could he give up this opportunity to make friends with him? He smiled obsequiously and said, Boss Tang, I actually came here this time to see what my good-for-nothing son has been doing recently. Secondly, I want him to attend the opening ceremony of our Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex the day after tomorrow. Since you've come to our Qinglin County, it's definitely an honor for our county. I wonder if I can have the honor to invite you to attend the opening ceremony of our Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex? I'm not interested. Tan Xiu directly refused. He indeed had no interest in the opening ceremony of this villa complex. On the other hand, it was also because of Zhang Xinya. After all, she was invited by Wang Shuigang, and he didn't want to meet her in Qinglin County. Wang Shuigang was a bit embarrassed, but he still forced a smile and turned to his son, Wang Tao. He even made up his mind that if his son could invite Tan Xiu, then he wouldn't teach this brat a lesson about his venereal disease. Wang Tao was also thinking about this matter at this moment. When he saw his father winking at him, he immediately realized that the opportunity to redeem himself had come. He hurriedly smiled and said, "Big brother Tang, you're this Wang Tao's brother. My family will have a big event soon, so you have to give me some face and join in the fun. It was my dad's fault just now, so please don't be angry." A strange light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he hesitantly said, "Honestly speaking, I've already forgotten about what happened just now. But I really can't attend the opening ceremony of the villa complex the day after tomorrow because I still have to go to Qingqing Monastery to see Wang Rui. On one hand, I have to deliver the healing medicine to him and personally thank him. On the other hand, I have something I need his help with." "What kind of help?" asked Wang Tao, confused. "It's not a big deal, actually," said Tan Xiu casually. "It's just that I heard that there are countless precious medicinal herbs in Qingqing Mountain. I recently reached a bottleneck in my cultivation and need 2 particularly precious herbs." Wang Tao looked happy and said without hesitation, "Big brother Tang, I can help you find any medicinal herbs in Qingqing Mountain." "Tell me, which 2 medicinal herbs?" "You can?" asked Tan Xiu hesitantly. "That's right. Of course I can," said Wang Tao proudly. "Ah, I forgot to tell you that my dad used to be a very famous barefoot doctor in this area. He even cured a big shot's illness in the city. I've been influenced by him since I was young, so I can identify a lot of medicinal herbs. I even organize people to search for precious herbs in the mountain every year and then send them to Qingqing Monastery to exchange for some good stuff." Chapter 821. Upon his arrival, Tan Xiu realized that Wang Tao knew something about Chinese medicine. At the very least, he knew about medicinal herbs. Else, it would be impossible for him to spend 10 million yuan to buy a red silk flower for 12 million yuan. Seeing that the road ahead was almost paved, he deliberately looked pleasantly surprised and asked, "I need a millennium wild ginseng and a red silk flower. Can you help me find them, brother Wang Tao?" Wang Tao stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly patted the back of his head and said with a wry smile, "Big brother Tang, I could have put them in front of you in minutes if you'd come here a month and a half earlier. But now, I can easily take out the millennium wild ginseng, but I gave the red silk flower to my first uncle." "What?" Tan Xiu's expression changed and deep disappointment could be seen in his eyes. He came all the way to Mount Qingcheng for the red silk flower in Wang Tao's hand. However, he had given it to his uncle, the deputy abbot of the Qingqing Taoist temple, a month and a half ago, which made him feel helpless. Wang Tao's expression suddenly shifted and he quickly said, "Big brother Tang, I can accompany you to Qingqing Monastery to find my first uncle if you really need the red silk flower. I heard that he also needs the red silk flower and it seems to have something to do with concocting medicine. But he still lacks several precious medicinal herbs a month and a half ago, so the red silk flower shouldn't have been used up yet. Let's not delay it any further. Shall we go now?" Tan Xiu immediately said. Wang Tao could see the eagerness in Tan Xiu's expression and secretly laughed inside. He wanted to take Tan Xiu to Qingqing Monastery personally for a selfish reason. Firstly, he wanted to show his goodwill to Tan Xiu, and secondly, he wanted his first uncle to know that the red silk flower he gave was really a good thing that even an amazing cultivator like Tan Xiu wanted to get. How about we go the day after tomorrow, Big Brother Tang? You see, I still need to treat my illness with Chinese medicine and attend the opening ceremony of my Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex. We'll immediately go to the mountain after the opening ceremony as long as you're willing to wait for me. Tang Xiu pondered for a moment and nodded without a word. He didn't know the location of the Qingqing monastery. Rather than entering the vast Qingqing mountain to search aimlessly, it would be better to wait for 2 days and let Wang Tao take him there. However, the meaning behind Wang Tao's words was very obvious. He still hoped that he would attend the opening ceremony of their Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex. What a headache! Tan Xiu was keenly aware of the complacency flashing in Wang Tao's eyes. He forced a smile and said, "Where will the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex be held? I will arrive on time the day after tomorrow." At the side, Wang Shuigang's face was filled with ecstasy. Although his business was huge, and he had money and manpower, to the extent that he was known as the local tyrant of Qinglin County, it was still a far cry from those large domestic conglomerates. Even though the magnificent Tang Corporation had been established for less than a year, he knew that it was a very huge company with a development speed akin to riding a rocket. A few months ago, the magnificent Tang Corporation had won a large piece of land in Shanghai and even invited construction companies from all over the country to bid for the project. His construction company was not qualified to bid at all. It was rumored that only the top 10 large construction companies in the country were qualified to bid. Wang Shuigang thought that he was very rich, but there was still a huge gap between him and the man in front of him. The magnificent Tang Corporation had long been appraised by the industry, and its total value was no less than 10 billion yuan. Among them, Tan Xiu also had some hidden wealth that he was unaware of. If he could invite Tan Xiu to attend the opening ceremony of his Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex, it would definitely cause a big sensation in the real estate industry and even the entire business world. Therefore, his company's reputation would spread far and wide, and its future development would be smoother. Sunbao 5-Star Hotel. Inside the presidential suite number 1208, Long Zhenglin was comfortably nestled on the sofa, while imagining the scene of Tan Xiu being refused at the door when he visited Wang Tao. A smile appeared on his rough face. Ding dong. The doorbell rang and Long Zhenglin lazily glanced at the door. He immediately waved to Jin Shi, who was sitting cross-legged in cultivation at the side, and weakly said, "Open the door. Your boss probably came back with his tail between his legs after being refused at the door." Jin Shi let out a hollow smile and walked to the door. He would definitely slap the person if it was someone else who said this, but Long Zhenglin was an exception. After all, he had a very close relationship with his boss, and Jin Shi didn't dare to offend him. "Huh? It's you." Jin Shi couldn't help but ask in surprise when he saw the slender and graceful Zhang Xinya standing outside the door with an excited look on her face. Zhang Xinya had seen Jin Shi before, so she could tell that Tan Xiu had indeed come to Qinglin County at this moment. Although she was still in a trance, she was full of excitement and quickly asked, "Where's Tan Xiu? I want to see him. Our boss went out to handle some matters." "He's not here," said Jin Shi. Zhang Xinya took a deep breath and directly squeezed into the room. A disappointed look flashed in her eyes when she saw Long Zhenglin sitting on the sofa. She then asked again, "Where did he go?" "I don't know the whereabouts of our boss," said Jin Shi. "Only all went with boss to handle some matters, and we all stayed here to wait." Zhang Xinya was silent for a moment. Then, she took out her mobile and dialed Tan Xiu's number. This time, the phone only rang a few times before it was picked up. "Where are you, Tan Xiu?" "Qingqing Mountain, Qinglin County." Zhang Xinya was delighted. She could clearly feel Tan Xiu's repulsive tone when she called Tan Xiu in the past, but now he directly told her where he was without deceiving her. "I'm also in Qinglin County. I'm now in the presidential suite of the Sunbao 5-Star Hotel. I heard from your men that you went out to handle some matters, so I won't disturb you. I'll wait for you here." After saying that, she seemed to be afraid that Tan Xiu wouldn't agree and directly hung up the phone. Long Jinglin got up from the sofa and looked at Zhang Xinya with a strange expression, saying, "If outsiders knew that the dignified superstar Zhang Xinya is actually waiting for a man in a hotel, I'm afraid that more than half of the men in the world would be jealous, no? I say, have you fallen in love with my big bro?" "That's right. I've fallen in love with Tan Xiu," said Zhang Xinya without concealing anything. Cough, cough. Long Jinglin choked on his own saliva and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "I wouldn't have asked if I knew it earlier. It's because the result will be the same whether I ask or not. My big bro's luck in love affairs is really heaven-defying." "I know he's very lucky in love affairs, but I don't care," said Zhang Xinya. "Anyways, who are you?" Long Jinglin rolled his eyes and resentfully said, "Didn't Tan Xiu mention me, second young master Long, to you? I'm his most loyal little brother." A smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Xinya's mouth as she said, "I've seen him before. It turns out that you're his little brother. No wonder you have such a good temperament. There should be many girls who like you, right? Good temperament?" Long Jinglin's eyes lit up. He immediately clapped and smilingly said, "You really have a good eye, sister-in-law." "That's right. Though I'm not as handsome as Tan Xiu, my temperament is very good. Come, have a seat, sister-in-law. Are you thirsty? I'll make some tea for you. Also, do you want to eat some fruits? I'll tell the hotel staff to send them to you right away." "Thank you." Zhang Xinya snickered inwardly. Since Long Jinglin could come to Qinglin County with Tan Xiu, she could guess that Tan Xiu and Long Jinglin must have a very good relationship. If she could make Long Jinglin have a good impression of her, then she would be able to get more news about Tan Xiu. Maybe she could even make Long Jinglin put in a good word for her. In the past, she had full confidence in herself. But ever since she was alienated by Tan Xiu, she really suffered a blow. Therefore, she could only resort to the means she used in the past. Qinglin County. In Wang Tao's residence, Tan Xiu was quietly boiling Chinese medicine. As the rich fragrance of the medicine permeated every corner of the kitchen, he was thinking about something in silence. At present, what he urgently needed the most was the red silk flower. However, this medicinal herb was too rare. The red silk flower Wang Tao obtained was unexpectedly given to Wang Rui's father, the deputy monastery abbot of the Qingqing monastery. Tan Xiu didn't know whether he could get it when he went to the Qingqing monastery the day after tomorrow. Should I exchange it with something? The Qingqing monastery is an old-school sect. Once I impart the cultivation technique to the Qingqing monastery's people, the Qingqing monastery's cultivation resources are bound to be wantonly plundered by the Qingqing monastery in the future, which will be very disadvantageous to the development of the everlasting feast hall. Medicinal pills. That's a good choice, but I don't know if Wang Rui's father will take a fancy to the medicinal pills I refined. If I use something else, countless thoughts churned inside Tan Xiu's mind. He even put the matter of Zhang Xinya's call to the back of his mind. 10:00 in the evening. Tan Xiu watched as Wang Tao took the Chinese medicine and applied the medicinal concoction to the festering area on his body. Then, he said, "Take this once a day for half a month. Your illness will be completely cured after half a month. If you want to go with me to the Qingqing monastery the day after tomorrow, take the medicinal herbs there. You can also endure it there." "No problem." Wang Tao readily agreed. Tan Xiu thought for a while and suddenly asked, "If I list the names of some precious medicinal herbs, can you help me buy them? The price is negotiable, but what I need are high-quality medicinal herbs." Wang Tao grinned and said, "I may not have the ability if you ask me for something else, Big Brother Tang. But when it comes to buying medicinal herbs, I'm absolutely good at it. We don't have many things in Qingqing Mountain, but we don't lack medicinal herbs. When we come back from the Qingqing monastery, no matter how many precious medicinal herbs you need, I can buy them for you as long as they are available here. I'll give you a big gift if you can buy them for me," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Wang Tao's expression moved and hurriedly asked, "What kind of gift?" Tang Xiu patted his shoulder and smilingly said, "If I tell you now, there won't be any sense of mystery left. Don't worry, haste makes waste. I'll naturally fulfill my promise and give you a big surprise after I get a lot of precious medicinal herbs." Chapter 822. The moonlight was hazy, and the warm air was blowing to its heart's content. It was the season of spring and flowers were blooming, and the entire Qinglin County was filled with a faint fragrance. Several sparrows flew outside the window as if they wanted to race the SUV that was moving slowly on the road. "Oh, what do you think of Wang Tao?" Tan Xiu, who was sitting in the back seat, held a cigarette between his fingers and wore a faint smile on his handsome face. His eyes were looking out of the car, but the focus was not obvious. "He's very shrewd and very eloquent," said Mo while driving. "He tried to restrain his personality when we met him, but the pride and arrogance of a second-generation nouveau riche can still be occasionally expressed in his speech and behavior. Unless he can experience a great tribulation, his achievements in this life will be limited. It's a common problem among the second generation of the rich. It's good to have a unique personality, but if they're too ostentatious and domineering, then they'll need a great tribulation to temper themselves, else they'll attract a lot of trouble because of their arrogance. Anyways, let's not talk about him. Stop and buy some cigarettes if you pass by a tobacco and alcohol store on the way back." "All right," Mo replied. 7 minutes later, the SUV was parked in front of a tobacco and alcohol store. Four rough-looking youths in gaudy clothes were playing cards in front of the store. After Tan Xiu walked inside with Mo, he found that there was no one inside and immediately shouted, "Who's the boss? I want to buy some cigarettes. Take it from the counter and send the money here later." A yellow-haired youth playing cards around the table at the entrance replied loudly, his eyes never leaving the cards. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. How was this a business? It was simply not a proper occupation. After hesitating for a moment, he spoke again, "The quantity I want is a bit much. You'd better come inside." The yellow-haired youth frowned and looked at the store. He reluctantly took the cards in his hand and staggered back to the store, asking, "How much is a bit much? What kind of cigarettes do you want to buy?" "Just take the soft chunghua," said Tan Xiu. "I want as many as you have in your store." "Soft China." The yellow-haired youth revealed a smile and sized up Tan Xiu a few times. Then, he clicked his tongue and sighed, "Bro, you're quite extravagant. But I have dozens of soft chunghua in stock, do you really want all of them?" "Yes." Tan Xiu nodded. The yellow-haired youth chuckled and said, "All right, wait a moment." A few minutes later, Tan Xiu and Mo all left the tobacco and alcohol store with dozens of soft chunghua in their arms. They threw all of them into the back seat and quickly left. The yellow-haired youth swaggered out of the shop and watched the off-road vehicle leave. Then, he returned to the table and said with a smile, "I've met a rich man today. He didn't even talk about the price and directly bought all my soft chunghua." A young man with a green snake tattoo on his neck curled his lips and snorted, "Bullshit, it's just a few dozen soft chunghua. This young master can buy hundreds of soft chunghua with just a casual stroll around the tomb. Cut the crap and let's play cards." A strange glint flashed in the yellow-haired youth's eyes as he grinned and said, "Big brother Huzi, take us with you when you go to the tomb again. We also want to follow you to broaden our horizons." The tattooed youth rolled his eyes and snorted, "Aren't you afraid that the Zongzi will tear you apart? Aren't you afraid that the Yin souls will take over your bodies and swallow your yang qi?" The yellow-haired youth shrunk his neck and immediately let out a hollow laugh. "Well, we have you, big brother Huzi." The tattooed youth smiled proudly and said slowly, "Since you want to follow me to broaden your horizons, it's not impossible. However, let's make this clear first. If you encounter any danger at the bottom of the graveyard, it has nothing to do with me. Each of you can only get 10% of the treasures." "All right. No problem. You're so generous, big brother Huzi." The three youths immediately looked happy and happily promised. At the Senbao 5-star hotel. After the off-road vehicle stopped at the hotel's entrance, Tan Xiu looked at Mo All and said, "Do you still remember the place where we just bought cigarettes? Go back there and beat that guy with a tattoo on his neck. Remember to break one of his legs and make him spend the next few months in bed." Understood. Despite the confusion in his heart, he still respectfully replied. Also, do remember to tell him not to deal with the dead anymore, let alone enter the tombs. Else, it won't just be his lifespan that will be lost, but his family will be implicated as well. They will either get sick or become disabled, or die. Tang Xiu added once more. You told me to break one of his legs, boss, is it to save him? Mo All was surprised. Yes, it's to save him, said Tan Xiu. Else, if we let him continue to enter the tomb, the death qi on his body will get more and more. He will die in the tomb within 2 months at most. After saying that, Tan Xiu got off the car alone and entered the Senbao 5-star hotel. However, he recalled that Zhang Xinya was waiting for him in the hotel and felt a bit helpless inside. Sometimes, Tan Xiu couldn't bear such heavy feelings. He couldn't give her a future, nor could he have a special affection for her. Instead of making her sad and painful in the future, it was better to sever the relationship with her earlier. Therefore, he secretly made up his mind when he received Zhang Xinya's call. This time, no matter how sad and painful Zhang Xinya was, he must make it clear to her and completely sever this ill-fated relationship. Inside the presidential suite number 1208, Zhang Xinya was leaning on the sofa drowsily, while Zhang Xiaoyu was playing with her mobile phone in high spirits. Long Zhenglin was nowhere to be seen, and only a snoring sound could be heard coming from the next room. Ding, dong, the doorbell rang and Jin Shi quickly opened the door. After seeing Tan Xiu standing outside, he quickly said, "Miss Zhang is still waiting for you, boss." Tan Xiu nodded in response. After entering the room, he looked at Zhang Xinya, who immediately became spirited, and Zhang Xiaoyu, who hurriedly put away her mobile phone. He then nodded and said, "It's already so late, yet you haven't gone back to rest yet? We can talk about it tomorrow if we have time." Zhang Xinya strode to greet Tan Xiu. She shook her head and said, "I'm not tired. I just wanted to see you earlier. I talked with Long Zhenglin before and learned that you came to Qinglin County to buy a very important medicinal herb, is that correct?" "I do want to buy a medicinal herb, but I didn't expect that you would come here." Tan Xiu nodded. "When I came in just now, I saw 2 suspicious people nearby. Are they your bodyguards?" "The company did hire 2 bodyguards for me, and they are always nearby," said Zhang Xinya. "They won't appear unless I'm in danger." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "It's getting late. Since we've already met, go back and rest early. We'll talk about it tomorrow." Zhang Xinya's eyes turned dark. Tan Xiu's order to leave made her feel a bit uncomfortable. Although Tan Xiu didn't conceal his whereabouts from her in the previous phone call, which made her feel that Tan Xiu no longer rejected her. But now, Tan Xiu's attitude made her feel even more repulsed. She didn't leave, but stared at Tan Xiu and asked, "Don't tell me you don't want to see me that much?" "It's not that I don't like to see you, but I don't want to see you," said Tan Xiu. "You're a well-known superstar, and the man who appears in front of you is bound to be noticed by others and will cause misunderstandings. Besides, I already have a girlfriend, and we're going to get married in the future, so I don't want her to misunderstand me." In an instant, Zhang Xinya felt a stabbing pain in her heart. She didn't care about being misunderstood by others, but looking at the indifferent expression on Tan Xiu's face, she wanted to tell him that she really liked him and didn't care even if he had a girlfriend. However, she swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She didn't care about it, but Tan Xiu did. She really didn't have the face to speak out her thoughts under such circumstances. Zhang Xiaoyu, who stood at the side, looked at Zhang Xinya, who had a painful expression on her face and tears in her eyes. She immediately strode a few steps forward and loudly said, Mr. Tang, I know my sister likes you even though this is the first time we meet. Why do you have to hurt her heart? Do you know that she always talks about you and often stares at your photos in a daze? Even the photos on her mobile screen are all of you. Shut up. Although Tan Xiu felt apologetic inside, he still hardened his heart and snapped at the moment, I'm talking to Zhang Xinya. You're not qualified to interrupt. I'm not qualified, but I feel sorry for my sister, said Zhang Xiaoyu angrily. You're too cruel, aren't you? My sister has been waiting for you here for 5 or 6 hours, yet you just came back and you want to drive her away? You're too heartless. Humph. Tan Xiu snorted coldly. You can't judge whether I'm heartless or not. Get out of my room at once, else don't blame me for throwing you out. You, Zhang Xiaoyu was about to speak but was stopped by Zhang Xinya. As tears flowed out of her eyes, Zhang Xinya quickly raised her hand to wipe them. She stared deeply at Tan Xiu and even raised her hand to gently wipe the dust on Tan Xiu's left shoulder. Then, she softly said, let's go back and rest if you're tired. You can rest assured that I won't bring you any trouble. You may not want to accept me, but I'll be satisfied as long as I can look at you from afar. After saying that, she then turned around and walked toward the door with a heartache. Tan Xiu looked at her back and sighed inwardly. He didn't want to hurt Zhang Xinya's heart, but he had to do it now. Just like what her younger sister, Zhang Xinyue, said, since he couldn't give her happiness, why should he delay her? Maybe she would meet a better man who would love her more in the future. As the two women left, the door of the next room was opened. Although Long Jinglin still looked a bit sleepy, his eyes were still full of disbelief when he looked at Tan Xiu. Aren't you going too far? I think it's good for you to be a bystander, said Tan Xiu lightly. Chapter 823. Tan Xiu didn't want to talk about his feelings with Long Jinglin. He didn't want him to say anything or express his attitude. He wouldn't hurt Zhang Xinya's heart if he had feelings for her. But a perfunctory attitude without any feelings was the biggest harm to her. Long Jinglin had known Tan Xiu for a long time, so he naturally knew Tan Xiu's character. He could only force a wry smile upon hearing it and return to his room to continue sleeping. In room 1206 of the presidential suite, Zhang Xinya went back to her bedroom and cried bitterly. She was indeed deeply hurt by Tan Xiu, and her heart ached as though it was being cut by a knife. Outside the room, regret could be seen on Zhang Xiaoyu's delicate face. She hurriedly told Zhang Xinya about her encounter with Tang Xiu in order to make her happy. But the result was that heartless scoundrel's heartless attitude and Zhang Xinya's pain. What should I do? She didn't want to see Zhang Xinya sad. As her new manager, she hoped that Zhang Xinya could work and live happily. The opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex will be held the day after tomorrow. Sis Xinya will definitely attend the opening ceremony and sing a few songs. But her current mood will definitely affect the event that day. Further, it will have a great negative impact on her if she cries until her eyes are swollen and her voice becomes hoarse. Zhang Xiaoyu anxiously paced back and forth outside the door for a long time. Suddenly, she thought of another person and immediately ran back to her room. Then, she hurriedly took out her mobile and dialed a cell number. Hey, why haven't you rested yet, Xiaoyu? Is something the matter to call me this late? Zhang Xinyue's lazy voice came from the phone. I seem to have done something wrong, Sis Xinyue, said Zhang Xiaoyu bitterly. What did you do wrong? Asked Zhang Xinyue with a smile. Did my sis reprimand you? We're now in Qinglin County at the foot of Qingqing Mountain, Sis Xinyue, said Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly. But I didn't expect that I would bump into that scoundrel, Tan Xiu, in the same hotel I'm staying at. Sis Xinya has been waiting for him for a long time and finally saw him, but, after narrating the whole story, Zhang Xiaoyu continued, Big Sis Xinya is crying very hard now. She's obviously deeply hurt. Warm Moon Sis, what should I do? Zhang Xinyue's voice didn't come out of the phone for a long time until Zhang Xiaoyu couldn't help but call out. Only then did Zhang Xinyue say in a deep voice, "When is your commercial performance?" "The day after tomorrow." Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly said. "I'll rush there tonight since it's the day after tomorrow," said Zhang Xinyue. "I should be able to rush there tomorrow. Remember, before I get there, you must accompany her." "Wait until I get there." Good, good, good. Early morning. When the first ray of sunlight shone into the bedroom, Tan Xiu ended his several hours of cultivation. He put on his clothes, washed up, and went to the hotel restaurant to have breakfast. Then, he left the hotel in a hurry. When he talked with Wang Tao yesterday, he heard that there was a medicinal herb market in Qinglin County, so he planned to take a look. Dongcheng. The Qinglin medicinal herbs market did not occupy a large area, but before entering, Tan Xiu could already smell the faint scent of medicinal herbs floating in the air. In order to save time, he immediately released his spiritual sense to search for precious medicinal herbs after entering the market. In just 10 minutes, his spiritual sense had observed all the medicinal herbs in the entire market. To his surprise, he found several precious medicinal herbs that were very old. He lost interest in staying here after spending money to buy them. "Boss Tang, you can wait for half an hour if you want to buy more precious medicinal herbs. Today is the weekly opening time of our Qinglin County Medicinal Herbs Market. A batch of medicinal herbs will be delivered here at 9 o'clock. Of course, there will also be some medicinal herb merchants from the surrounding big cities coming to buy medicinal herbs, so the competition will not be small," said Cheng Yan, the 100 Medicine Hall's boss with a smile. Tan Xiu had just bought 2 precious medicinal herbs from him, which made him make a big profit. Moreover, nearly half of the medicinal herbs sent here were bought by his 100 Medicine Hall's pharmacists from the major towns and villages. "Will there be precious medicinal herbs being sent here?" asked Tan Xiu after hearing it. "There should be." Cheng Yan nodded and said, "Because precious medicinal herbs will appear every week. You must know that we're close to Qingqing Mountain and many people here know about medicinal herbs. The news spread fast enough, and those herb gatherers also know the value of precious medicinal herbs, so there are a lot of people here. Some courageous people even go to the depths of Qingqing Mountain to look for medicinal herbs." "If that's the case, then I'll wait for a while," said Tan Xiu. Half an hour later. As the few cars drove into the Qinglin medicinal ingredient market, 2 of them stopped at the entrance of the Hall of 100 Medicine. Because the Hall of 100 Medicine was the largest store in the entire medicinal ingredient market and had the largest business, many medicinal herb gatherers would first send their medicinal herbs here to sell them, in addition to the medicinal herbs collected by the Hall of 100 Medicine's pharmacists. Unless those medicinal herbs that the 100 Medicine Hall didn't like were sold elsewhere, half of the medicinal herbs would enter the 100 Medicine Hall's pharmacy. River root grass. Before the 2 cars of medicinal herbs were unloaded, Tan Xiu found a precious medicinal herb through his spiritual sense. Even the appearance of this medicinal herb surprised him. There was a river in the immortal world called the Ruoshui Sky River. The river bank was full of yin qi and a kind of medicinal herb grew there, which was the river root grass. Later, some powerful immortals discovered that if some corpses were thrown into the Ruoshui Sky River, the river root grass could grow rapidly. Therefore, the river root grass was also known as the corpse grass. Its effect was very special. It could only make people's bones change qualitatively. Whether it was the bones of mortals or immortals, it had the same effect. Therefore, many immortals liked to use the river root grass as an auxiliary medicinal herb when refining body refining pills. It didn't take long. As the 2 cars were unloaded, Tan Xiu selected several good quality medicinal herbs and bought them, including the river root grass. However, the price of the river root grass was very low. He only spent 280 yuan to buy it. With this river root grass, if I get the red flower, the effect of the blood-seizing pill I refined will be better. Maybe I can break through to the qi and blood circulation realm after taking the blood-seizing pill. At noon, Tan Xiu returned to the Sunbao 5-star hotel. Just as he stepped into the hotel's entrance, he saw Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly running out of the elevator. Humph, what a bad guy. Zhang Xiaoyu also saw Tan Xiu. She stopped and angrily glared at Tan Xiu. Then, she ran from the side and quickly disappeared at the hotel's entrance. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He didn't dislike Zhang Xiaoyu. He even felt that it was good for Zhang Xinya to have a new personal assistant. At the very least, this new assistant wouldn't be like the one he met for the first time, making Zhang Xinya come to the airport to borrow money from him. Outside the hotel's entrance, Zhang Xiaoyu looked around for a while before she found a red Mercedes-Benz parked in front of her. As the door opened, Zhang Xinyue, who was wearing sunglasses and a mask, threw the car key to Zhang Xiaoyu and asked, "Which floor and which room is my sis staying in?" "Number 1206, presidential suite on the 12th floor," answered Zhang Xiaoyu quickly. Zhang Xinyue nodded and strode toward the hotel's entrance. Zhang Xiaoyu hesitated for a moment before she quickly chased after her and said, "That bad guy just returned to the hotel, sis Xinyue. He's staying in presidential suite 1208. Please scold him for me if you see him." Zhang Xinyue stopped and turned around. "Xiaoyu, I know you're very good to my sis, but don't meddle in her relationship issues. I've met Tan Xiu. He's indeed an excellent man, but I don't want my sis to have any emotional entanglement with him." Zhang Xiaoyu stared blankly and nervously said, "I understand, sis Xinyue." Zhang Xinyue took the elevator to the 12th floor, but she didn't immediately go to presidential suite 1206. Instead, she knocked on the door of presidential suite 1208. As the door opened, she took off her sunglasses and mask and asked, "Is Tan Xiu inside?" Mo Ao, who opened the door, stared blankly and hesitated for a moment before replying, "Yes, he is." Zhang Xinyue stepped into the room and saw Tan Xiu sitting on the sofa and playing with his mobile. She immediately let out a smile and said, "We meet again, Mr. Tang." Tan Xiu raised his head and shook his head with a smile. "I've seen a lot of twin sisters, to be honest with you. But it's rare to see one who is so similar to you too. You just arrived in Qinglin County, right? Hee, you're really good to your sis." Zhang Xinyue walked to the opposite side of Tan Xiu and sat down, saying with a smile, "She's my sis, so it's natural for me to treat her well. But Mr. Tang, thank you for provoking my sis with your words." "You're welcome." Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "It's what I should do." Zhang Xinyue was silent for a moment and then suddenly asked, "Mr. Tang, is your relationship with your girlfriend as good as ever?" "Of course." Tan Xiu replied calmly. A disappointed look flashed in Zhang Xinyue's eyes. She nodded and said, "I see. I'll persuade my sis to let go of her earlier. Also, if it's not necessary, I don't think you should meet my sis again in the next few days. We'll leave Qinglin County immediately after she finishes attending the commercial performance tomorrow. I don't want to meet her again, either." Tan Xiu shook his head. "But I'm afraid it'll be very difficult." "Why?" asked Zhang Xinyue with a frown. "As far as I know, your sis was invited to attend the commercial performance, whereas I'm also going to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex tomorrow," said Tan Xiu. "Since we appeared at the same time, it would be difficult for us not to meet each other. Unless..." "Unless what?" asked Zhang Xinyue. "Unless you replace your sis to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex tomorrow," said Tan Xiu. "But I think she'll perform at the opening ceremony tomorrow, so you must be prepared if you replace her." Zhang Xinyue thought for a moment and then slowly nodded. "I'll discuss it with my sis. I can replace her to attend the opening ceremony if she's willing. As for the performance, even if my performance is not as good as my sis, it won't be too far off. I'm confident about it." Chapter 824. Zhang Xinyue only stayed in the presidential suite 1208 for a short time. She hurriedly left and went to suite 1206 after she had said everything she wanted to say. She was already mentally prepared, yet she still faintly felt distressed when she saw her elder sister's red and swollen eyes and her dispirited mental state. "Why are you here, Xinyue?" Despite being in a bad mood, Zhang Xinya was still surprised that her younger sister appeared in Qinglin County. Just as she asked, she suddenly realized that it must be Zhang Xiaoyu who called her sister and told her about the situation here. Otherwise, she wouldn't have rushed here in such a hurry. Zhang Xinyue gently hugged Zhang Xinya and whispered, "Let it go, sis." "I can't." "Then just leave it to time." Zhang Xinyue faintly sighed. She immediately shifted the topic to avoid her elder sister from being immersed in the pain. "Look at your current state, sis. How are you going to attend the opening ceremony of the villa complex tomorrow? How about I replace you to attend it tomorrow?" "No way," said Zhang Xinya hurriedly. "They spent a lot of money to invite me. I may not be in a good state, but I'll make the best use of the time to adjust myself. What they want is only your fame and your appearance." Zhang Xinyue shook her head. "But we're almost the same in height and appearance, so it won't be a problem for me to replace you. Besides, do you think that my singing skills are inferior to yours?" "You do sing very well," said Zhang Xinya. "Those who are not particularly familiar with us won't be able to tell who is who. But just listen to me, sis." Zhang Xinyue interrupted her. "Look at your eyes now. They're red and swollen, and your mental state is terrible. You'll definitely have an accident if you attend the opening ceremony tomorrow. Let's be serious here. If something happens to you in the commercial performance, it will greatly affect your reputation. Those gossip news outlets are eagerly waiting to report your scandal. So instead of letting them make up stories to slander you, it's better for me to help you perform." Zhang Xinya hesitated. "All right, then it's decided," said Zhang Xinyue with a smile. "That's right, have you had lunch?" "I drove here overnight, and now I'm starving." "I'll tell the hotel's F&B staff to send the food over," said Zhang Xinya quickly. The next day, when Tan Xiu had just finished his breakfast and arrived at the lobby of Sanbao 5-star Hotel, Zhang Xinyue, who was wearing sunglasses, a mask, and a black trench coat in the corner of the lounge area, stood up with Zhang Xiaoyu and quickly greeted him. Tan Xiu would be able to distinguish Zhang Xinya and Zhang Xinyue if he were to carefully distinguish them. But at this moment, looking at the woman wearing a mask and sunglasses in front of him, he couldn't tell them apart. "Mr. Tang, let's go together since you're also going to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex." Zhang Xinyue smiled. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "It seems that you really have a way to persuade your sister. However, it's fine if we go together. I still have to meet a friend, so I need to go with him later." "You have friends here?" Zhang Xinyue was surprised. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Why? Can't I have friends here?" "That's not what I mean." Zhang Xinyue quickly waved her hand and said, "I'm just curious about why you came to Qinglin County. How about this? Since he's your friend, why don't you take me with you? We'll go straight to the venue of the commercial performance later." Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he immediately nodded and said, "If that's the case, then let's go together." Zhang Xinyue didn't ride her sister's nanny car but sat in Tan Xiu's car instead. Zhang Xiaoyu, who came with Zhang Xinyue, temporarily became her personal assistant, so she also sat in the front seat. "Big guy, drive slowly. Our sis Xinyue is prone to motion sickness." Glancing at Zhang Xiaoyu, Mo started the car without saying anything and quickly rushed to Wang Tao's residence. 10 minutes later, the car was parked outside Wang Tao's residence. As Tan Xiu and Zhang Xinyu entered the courtyard, Wang Tao came out cheerfully. "Huh?" Wang Tao's eyes stared straight at Zhang Xinyue the moment he saw her. It was only when Zhang Xinyue followed Tan Xiu to him that he came back to his senses. He hurriedly stretched out his hand and said, "Hello, Miss Xinya. I'm Wang Tao, and my father is Wang Xuegang. The Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex is a property developed by my family." A look of disgust flashed in Zhang Xinyue's eyes, but she concealed it very well. She didn't shake hands with Wang Tao but turned to look at Tan Xiu instead. Tan Xiu had heard of Wang Tao's reputation for being lecherous, so he smilingly said, "You don't have to directly ignore me even if you see a beauty, do you? No matter what, we're very close friends." Wang Tao stared blankly for a moment before he immediately let out a hollow smile and retracted his hand. He then looked at Tan Xiu and said, "Please don't take it to heart, big brother Tang. Everyone loves beauty. It's my first time seeing Miss Xinya, so it's normal for me to be attracted to her. Come, let's go inside and have a chat." Tan Xiu said, "Let's just go inside the house and chat. Hurry up and take the medicinal herbs. We need to rush to the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex. If my guess is correct, they should be almost done with their preparations." Wang Tao thought for a moment and said, "Okay, we can talk on the way." Saying, he couldn't help but glance at Zhang Xinyue again before he quickly turned around and ran into the villa. Zhang Xinyue retracted her gaze from Wang Tao's back and whispered, "I don't like him. He's a living lecher. He's not a good person." Tan Xiu said indifferently, "He just said that everyone loves beauty. Who told you to be so beautiful? It's normal for people to look at you a few more times. However, this kid is indeed a bit more lecherous than ordinary people. Since you don't like him, just keep your distance from him." "I'll keep a distance from him." Zhang Xinyue nodded. "However, I need to correct you." "What do you mean?" asked Tan Xiu, confused. "Everyone loves beauty." "You're wrong about this," said Zhang Xinyue. "Because there's a different kind of person standing next to me." Cough, cough. Tan Xiu let out a dry cough and no longer talked about this topic. Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex. The winding road was very wide. At the foot of the highest peak in the periphery of Mount Qingcheng, there was a magnificent gate connected to the road. It was more than 30 meters high and more than 20 meters wide. At the gate, more than a dozen security guards in black uniforms were registering the information of passing vehicles. At this moment, two middle-aged men were sitting in a black Buick sedan, watching the driver register the vehicle's information. After the Buick slowly drove through the gate, one of them slowly said, "Wang Shuigang's eldest brother is the Qingqing Monastery's deputy temple master, a man with real power in the sect. Since we're going to uproot the Qingqing Monastery, let's kill Wang Shuigang while we're at it." The other middle-aged man with a ferocious scar on his cheek squinted his eyes and said, "You're right. There were 6 of us brothers in the past. 4 of us died in the hands of the Qingqing Monastery, and only the 2 of us were lucky enough to escape. Since we're here for revenge, let's play it big and make them all die. However, there are too many people here today, so we need to think about what to do." "No need. I brought the drunken dragon powder." "What?" The scar-faced man was aghast. "You actually brought the drunken dragon powder you asked Miao Wentong to buy from a foreign poison master, quite real. But do you want to use the drunken dragon powder on these ordinary people? Isn't that like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife? It's too wasteful." "I know it's a bit wasteful to use the drunken dragon powder to get rid of Wang Shuigang, but it's not much." Bai Real sneered. "As long as I take out 1/10 of the drunken dragon powder and put it in the banquet today, it'll be enough to make Wang Shuigang suffer. Even if he's lucky enough to survive, I'm afraid it'll bring him a lot of trouble later because too many people will die. TSK, TSK. When the time comes, we can send some people to pretend to be the family members of the deceased to take revenge on Wang Shuigang. We can stab him to death and then immediately retreat, so it won't attract the attention of outsiders." "That's a good idea." The scar-faced man said in a deep voice, "In that case, not only will we kill Wang Shuigang, but we'll also destroy his business. It seems this Wang Shuigang is doomed to be ruined." Bai Real nodded and looked to the north. He then coldly snorted and said, "It's been 24 years. We brothers fell off the cliff and had a fortuitous encounter and became cultivators. Moreover, we succeeded in becoming Dao Master Poison's disciple due to our good foundation. 24 years of bitter cultivation was all for the sake of revenge. This time, we must exterminate all the people of the Qingqing monastery. The scar-faced man sneered, don't worry. The experts we've trained all these years have all gone up the mountain ahead of us. Once they receive our order, they will immediately kill the people of the Qingqing monastery. Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex, a 3-story sales center. In a spacious office on the second floor, Wang Xuegang was waiting for the arrival of 2 distinguished guests with anticipation. This time, he had invited a lot of people, including some powerful figures in the government department of Qinglin County, some high-ranking officials in the city, and naturally some friends in the city's business circle. Even the chairman of the city's heavy industry group, Zhao Xianming, had promised to come in person. Boss Zhao is here. A middle-aged woman strode into the room and looked at Wang Xuegang, who was standing by the window. Wang Xuegang turned around and nodded, I'll go out to greet him right away. Clean up VIP room number 3. I'll take Boss Zhao there later. All right. Zhao Xianming was a middle-aged man with a big belly. His complexion was a bit pale due to the wine and women. As the big boss of the largest company in the city, he had an extraordinary bearing and was accompanied by several company leaders. Upon seeing Wang Xuegang coming out to greet him, he smiled and said, I haven't seen you for several months, yet you're still so spirited, Brother Wang. That's right. Today is the opening day of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex. Seeing that a lot of money is about to fly into your pocket, Brother Wang is naturally in high spirits. Let me congratulate you in advance. Chapter 825. Although Wang Xuegang was the richest man in Qinglin County and his business also affected the city, there was still a big gap between him and Zhao Xianming, who had a net worth of billions. Therefore, he naturally looked more respectful on the surface and modestly said, You must be joking, Brother Zhao. It's just a small business of mine, and it's far worse than yours. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to support us, Brother Zhao. Fragrant tea has been brewed in the VIP room upstairs. Let's go inside and chat. All right. Zhao Xianming replied with a smile. Inside the VIP room. After the 2 men sat down, Zhao Xianming smilingly asked, Brother Wang, the opening ceremony of your Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's Villa Complex is quite big today. Along the way, I saw a few business bosses. That's right, I heard you also invited the superstar, Zhang Xinya, with a huge sum of money. It's my business friends, so I came here to have a small gathering, said Wang Xuegang smilingly. As for Zhang Xinya, I did invite her to Qinglin County to sing at the opening ceremony to liven up the atmosphere. Zhao Xianming squinted his eyes and sighed, You're really amazing, Brother Wang. As a matter of fact, I tried to invite Zhang Xinya to perform at our company's welcoming party last year, but unfortunately, she didn't want to come at all. I can't compare with you in this regard, Brother Wang. Compare my ass. Wang Xuegang cursed inwardly. He had known Zhao Xianming for many years and knew that this guy was very stingy despite being rich and powerful. It was very likely that the appearance fee he gave Zhang Xinya was pitifully low, so it would be strange if she would come. This time, he had spent millions of yuan and used a lot of connections to invite Zhang Xinya over. After exchanging greetings, the door was knocked and Wang Xuegang's middle-aged female secretary came in and reported in a low voice, Boss, young Master Wang is here. Mr. Tang and the superstar, Zhang Xinya, also came with him. Wang Xuegang's expression moved. His son knew Tan Xiu, so it was normal for them to come together. But how come the superstar, Zhang Xinya, also came with them? Thinking of this, he looked at Zhao Xianming and said with a smile, Brother Zhao, I'll go receive the guests first. I'll introduce you to a big shot later. Zhao Xianming was stunned. He stopped Wang Xuegang and asked, Brother Wang, don't keep me in suspense. Who is this so-called big shot? Wang Xuegang smiled mysteriously and said, very soon, Brother Zhao will know. Finished. He quickly left with the middle-aged female secretary. When he reached the stairs, he saw Tan Xiu, Zhang Xinyue, and his son, Wang Tao, coming up from below. Boss Tang, Miss Zhang. From the looks of it, it seems like you already know each other. Wang Shuigang said with a smile. We've known each other before, but I didn't expect to meet you in Qinglin County, said Tan Xiu. Wang Shuigang suddenly understood and smilingly said, since you already know each other, then I don't have to introduce you to each other. Both of you, please follow me to the VIP lounge to rest. There's still half an hour before the opening ceremony. At that time, I will have to trouble the two of you. I just came here to join in the fun, Boss Wang, said Tan Xiu. There's no need to mention this troublesome matter again, right? But Xinya will have to sing a song later, so I'm afraid she'll be tired. It's nothing I can do to make money for you, boss, said Zhang Xinyue with a faint smile. Boss? Wang Shuigang stared blankly and incredulity filled his eyes as he asked in astonishment, Miss Zhang, you mean? Boss Tang is your company's, he's just a small shareholder, said Tan Xiu quickly. My friend invited me, so I couldn't refuse, so I invested some money. Please don't listen to Xinya's joke, Boss Wang. Wang Shuigang shuddered inside. Although Tan Xiu said it lightly, he knew who opened the entertainment company where Zhang Xinya worked, as well as the identity and background of those young masters. He never thought that Tan Xiu turned out to be friends with them. For them to be able to pull him to become a shareholder meant that their relationship must be very good. Maybe Tan Xiu also has an official background. As Wang Shuigang thought up to there, he immediately smiled and sighed, Boss Tang is really young and promising. Since you're friends with my son, I hope you can guide him in the future. It's only natural for friends to help each other, said Tan Xiu with a nod. After a few perfunctory words, they came to the VIP lounge. As fragrant tea and snacks were served, Wang Shuigang smilingly said, please continue chatting. I'm going to greet the other guests. Tao, take good care of Mr. Tang and Miss Zhang. Try to satisfy them no matter what their needs are. I know, Dad. Wang Tao quickly glanced at Zhang Xinyue and nodded. Time flew by. The opening ceremony finally arrived. As the host and singer, Zhang Xinyue replaced her older sister, Zhang Xinya, and came to the entrance of the sales center. Cheers and shouts immediately came from the crowded crowd outside. Because of the celebrity effect, there were a lot of people who came this time. There were thousands of people. Zhang Xinyue was not her older sister, Zhang Xinya, but she didn't have the slightest apprehension. She took the microphone and said with a smile, welcome, everyone. After her speech, Zhang Xinyue handed the microphone to Wang Shuigang next to her. As the owner of the Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex, Wang Shuigang smilingly said, Miss Zhang has already said what I wanted to say, so I won't be a repeater. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for your support. I also need to introduce some of the distinguished guests. The one next to me is the deputy mayor of the municipal government, this is the big boss of our city's Golden Rui Group, Boss Xiao, and this is our Qinglin County's county magistrate in charge of economic development. Lastly, I'd like to introduce a very distinguished guest to everyone. As Wang Shuigang spoke up to there, he immediately kept them guessing. But at this moment, thousands of people looked surprised because they could tell from Wang Shuigang's tone that the last guest's identity seemed to be extraordinary. At this moment, even Zhao Xianming and the city's deputy mayor were a bit surprised. Zhao Xianming walked a few steps and came to the edge, where Tan Xiu was standing. He cordially pulled Tan Xiu back to the place where he just stood and said with a bit of excitement, this is the distinguished guest who came from afar. He's the very famous magnificent Tang Corporation's boss, Mr. Tan Xiu. Furthermore, everyone knows that he has another identity, the young divine Dr. Tang Xiu. That's right. Tan Xiu. In a flash, exclamations came from the dense crowd. Even the city's deputy mayor and Zhao Xianming looked shocked. The magnificent Tang Corporation's reputation was getting more and more resounding, to the point that everyone in the country knew about it. Yet, the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss unexpectedly came here. This was a great figure. Furthermore, almost everyone present had heard of this young divine doctor. He was the man who was scrambled to be reported by the major media before the new year, the divine doctor Tan Xiu, who won the respect of countless people. Heavens! I never thought that the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's young divine doctor Tan Xiu would turn out to be the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. He's truly worthy of being the richest man in Qinglin County. He can even invite such a great figure like divine Dr. Tang. He's really amazing. This is big news. Being able to see such a great figure makes my life worth living. Fortunately, I came here today. Otherwise, how could I see such a great figure? This is so inspiring. I never thought that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss would be so young. Moreover, he's also a famous young divine doctor in the Chinese medical field. He's simply my idol. Amazing. Looking at the excited faces below, Tang Xiu could only force a wry smile inwardly. For the sake of the red silk flower, he had to show his face in public again and even combine his two identities. It was likely that he wouldn't be able to keep a low profile in the future even if he wanted to. Wang Shuigang smilingly said, "Then, Boss Tang will say a few words." Tan Xiu quickly said, "Boss Wang, this is a bit against the rules, isn't it? The leaders of the city, the county, and the bosses of the business world are all here. Letting me speak, this." Zhao Xianming was rich and powerful in his hometown, and he was a very proud man. There were not many people who could catch his eyes these days. But when he looked at Tan Xiu, he admired him from the bottom of his heart. It was not only because Tan Xiu was the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss, but also because of his achievements in Chinese medicine. Therefore, Zhao Xianming stepped forward and smilingly said, "You've come from afar, Boss Tang. You're our most distinguished guest. If you're not qualified to say a few words, I'm afraid we won't dare to speak." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "You must be Boss Xiao. Since you've said so, then I'll be bold and say a few words. I'm very happy to be able to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's Villa Complex and see so many friends here. At the same time, I also wish the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's Villa Complex a complete success. Thank you, everyone." Wang Shuigang took the microphone handed by Tan Xiu and excitedly said, "Thanks to Boss Tang's auspicious words, I now announce the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's Villa Complex. All friends and guests who are interested in buying villas, please go to the sales center to choose. At 12 noon, all the guests who ordered the villa in the morning will have the opportunity to attend a luncheon and listen to Miss Zhang Xinya, a well-known superstar." Shortly after, Wang Shuigang and the others retreated to the sales center and returned to the VIP lounge upstairs. Many people came to visit Tan Xiu due to his identity being exposed. After exchanging greetings, he and Wang Tao quietly went to the rooftop to have some leisure time. "Your dad is very good at doing business." Tan Xiu sat cross-legged on the rooftop, lit a cigarette and said, "No matter how good my dad is at doing business, he can't be compared to you, Big Brother Tang." Wang Tao said with a smile, "The name of the magnificent Tang Corporation is like a thunderclap reverberating in my ears. You've seen how fast my dad's expression changed after he learned your identity yesterday." "Hee hee." Tan Xiu chuckled. Afterward, the two chatted for a long time until 12 noon. Only then did they come down from the rooftop and went to the luncheon hall. Chapter 826. The luncheon hall was set up in the property management area. When Tan Xiu's group arrived, nearly 100 guests had already taken their seats. As the staff led them to the innermost table in the middle, Wang Shuigang, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately got up and smilingly said, "Boss Tang, Miss Zhang, please take a seat." Zhang Xinyue gently sat down, but Tan Xiu didn't immediately take a seat. The moment he entered the luncheon hall, he faintly smelled a faintly discernible fragrance. The fragrance was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't recall where he had smelled it before. He looked around and found that nearly 100 guests were chatting merrily and wittily. Many of them were looking in his direction, causing him to furrow his brows involuntarily. He couldn't find the source of the fragrance, but he was somewhat vigilant inwardly. It was as though his sixth sense was playing tricks on him, giving him a vague feeling that danger was approaching. "What's wrong, Boss Tang?" Wang Xuegang looked around in surprise and then looked at Tan Xiu with a suspicious expression. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he slowly sat down and shook his head. "It's nothing. I just smelled something familiar." Wang Xuegang couldn't help but burst into laughter. After taking a seat, he said, "Since Boss Tang thinks that my place smells familiar, it means that you find this place familiar. If you don't mind, Boss Tang, you can choose one of the several villas in my Golden Goblet Emperor Ga's villa complex as your residence. Consider it a gift to thank you for coming here." "Thank you for your kindness, Boss Wang." Tan Xiu shook his head. "But I won't be staying here for long. I don't have much time to live in a villa, so I'll pass." Wang Xuegang nodded with a smile and no longer talked about this topic. Shortly after, Zhang Xinyue, who sat next to Tan Xiu, was invited to the temporary stage and sang 3 songs for everyone. Her voice was very beautiful. Although her singing skills were slightly inferior to her older sisters, there were no great musicians present, so they naturally couldn't distinguish it. The performance ended. As the other supporting singers came on the stage, Zhang Xinyue returned to Tan Xiu's side and sat down. A strange light flashed in her bright eyes as she took advantage of the fact that no one at the table paid attention to her and whispered, "What's wrong with you, Tan Xiu? Why do I feel that you're a bit absent-minded after coming here? Do you smell a special fragrance?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. "Fragrance? You and Boss Wang also said that you smelled a familiar fragrance, but I didn't smell any fragrance at all," said Zhang Xinyue. "Now that the cold dish has just been sent over, perhaps your sense of smell is so sharp that you smelled it from the cold dish?" "Absolutely not." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "When we just entered the luncheon hall, there was that fragrance. There was a strong smell of medicinal herbs in this fragrance. In the past, even if one smelled a well-brewed medicinal soup, one would be able to distinguish the medicinal herbs used in the soup. But today, I don't know what's going on, but I can't tell what medicinal herb it is. I just feel that it's very familiar." "It's that strange?" Zhang Xinyue was surprised. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment, and the vigilance in his heart grew stronger. After a moment of silence, he responded to the toast of his table mates. Just as he was about to find an excuse to wander around, his expression suddenly changed, and his eyes instantly looked towards the door of the side hall. There, more than a dozen staff members were carrying stew over. As they approached, the smell became stronger and stronger. They didn't even need to breathe for the smell to enter their nostrils. "You smell it, don't you?" Tan Xiu turned to look at Zhang Xinyue and said in a low voice. Zhang Xinyue looked at Tan Xiu with a confused expression and said, "Smell what? Is it that familiar smell you mentioned? I don't see it. How come I don't smell it?" Tan Xiu's expression changed. He suddenly got up and quickly stood in front of the staff member who was delivering the dishes. Under the astonished eyes of nearly 100 guests in the hall, Tan Xiu then said in a deep voice, "Can I taste this stew first?" "Huh?" The staff member knew Tan Xiu's identity, but he never expected that the famous divine Dr. Tan Xiu would make such a strange request. Wang Xuegang was clueless about what happened, but he strode to Tan Xiu's side and asked, "What's wrong with you, Boss Tang?" "I want to taste this stew first," said Tan Xiu. Wang Xuegang was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "Boss Tang, you don't have to be in such a hurry even if you're hungry, right? I'll have someone send a few more pots later if you like this stew." Tan Xiu shook his head and casually lifted the lid of the clay pot. When white smoke came out of the pot, Tan Xiu was startled and instantly smelled the scent of several medicinal herbs. Dark zen seed, carrion grass, scorpion fruit, all of a sudden, Tan Xiu's expression drastically changed and he shouted in horror, "There's poison in this stew." What? Everyone in the entire luncheon hall was shocked and stood up from their seats. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, Wang Xuegang looked incredulous and hurriedly said, "I think you're mistaken, Boss Tang. How can there be poison in this stew? I invited all the chefs from the county with a lot of money, so there's no need for them to poison people." Zhang Xinyue quickly ran to Tan Xiu's side and said, "Don't talk nonsense, Tan Xiu. Can you really determine that there's poison in this stew?" "Yeah. You can't joke about this, Big Brother Tang." Wang Tao also quickly ran over and said. A murderous glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he coldly said, "When I stepped into the luncheon hall, I faintly smelled a familiar smell. I wasn't sure where this smell came from, but now I've finally figured it out. It's from the stew in front of me." Dark Zen seed is a very poisonous thing that grows in cold and mean places. Just one dark Zen seed can poison a whale to death. Carrion grass is a plant that grows on decaying corpses and grows from the heart of a decaying corpse. To make this carrion grass thrive, it needs to be watered with fresh blood every 7 days, and it needs to be watered 49 times. Scorpion fruit is a highly poisonous fruit. It's grayish-black in color and somewhat similar in appearance to a scorpion. The place where this fruit grows is extremely harsh and can only be found in extremely cold places. Speaking up to here, Tan Xiu clenched his fists and was silent for more than 10 seconds before he continued, "These 3 kinds of highly poisonous herbs are enough to poison thousands of people to death. But in addition to these 3 kinds of highly poisonous herbs, there should also be dozens of highly poisonous herbs mixed in this stew. However, the most terrifying thing is not these, but the flood dragon's heart blood." Wang Tao incredulously said, "Big Brother Tang, isn't what you said too amazing? Let alone those highly poisonous things that I've never heard of, just this flood dragon's heart blood alone is impossible to exist. How could there be a flood dragon in this world?" Tan Xiu indifferently glanced at him and said, "You haven't seen or heard of it, but that doesn't mean that flood dragons don't exist. I've seen the introduction of this poison in an ancient medical book and know its name, drunken dragon powder. I can tell you that even if a drop of drunken dragon powder is mixed into a bowl of water and then poured into these stew pots, it's enough to poison all of us here." Gasp! Everyone in the entire luncheon hall instantly looked extremely unsightly. Many of them looked at the stew pots carried by the staff with lingering fear, as though they had seen a terrifying snake or scorpion. "Go find an animal, be it a cat, a dog, a chicken, a duck, or a sheep. Hurry up," Tan Xiu ordered in a deep voice. "Understood." When a staff member heard this, he immediately ran out in a hurry. Not long after, he came back with a live chicken and a live sheep. "Pour a spoonful of the stew soup into their mouths," ordered Tan Xiu. "Understood." Several staff members quickly came over and poured a spoonful of the soup into the chicken and the sheep's mouths. Then, they loosened them according to Tan Xiu's order. 2 minutes later, Wang Tao looked confused as he looked at the chicken and the sheep and asked in surprise, "Are they all right? Are you going to use them to test the poison, Boss Tang?" asked Wang Xuegang hurriedly. "No problem." Tan Xiu didn't speak and just stared at the chicken and the sheep on the ground. Half a minute later, the chicken that was trying to escape suddenly fell to the ground. "What? There's blood flowing out of its mouth. And its eyes, why are they so red?" Someone beside him shouted in horror. Someone nearby exclaimed in horror. Everyone's body turned cold as though they were looking at the chicken that twitched a few times and then died with fear on their faces. After seeing the chicken's condition, Tan Xiu's eyes then fell on the sheep. A minute later, the sheep also slowly fell to the ground and then twitched and died. They're all dead. If the chicken had been poisoned to death, everyone's hearts were filled with fear. However, when the sheep was poisoned to death, everyone couldn't help but shiver. They subconsciously wanted to escape from this place. Wang Xuegang's heart was like falling into an ice cave. With a confused look on his face, He murmured, "Who poisoned the stew? Who would be so ruthless as to poison all of us here to death?" "Boss Wang, have you offended anyone recently?" Tan Xiu frowned. Wang Shuigang opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to answer. His business was so big, and even if he didn't offend anyone recently, he must have offended a lot of people in the past. How could a businessman, especially one with such a big business, not offend anyone? Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then slowly said, "Call the police. This matter is too serious. If we can't find the real culprit, I'm afraid we won't have the appetite to eat anymore." A grateful look appeared on Wang Shuigang's face as he looked at Tan Xiu and said, "I'll call the police right away, Boss Tang. It's all thanks to you being here today. Otherwise, all of us." He didn't finish his words. But everyone in the luncheon hall was as clear as a mirror. If it weren't for Tang Xiu, they would have all been poisoned to death here today. It was him. He was everyone's savior. Chapter 827. Facing nearly 100 people, Tan Xiu didn't feel the slightest joy in his heart. On the contrary, his heart was filled with worry and bitterness at this time. Others were now considering who the real culprit was, but he was considering whether the drunken dragon powder was concocted by a cultivator. If it was, then the culprit must be an evil cultivator who was proficient in poisons. "Take care, Boss Wang." Tan Xiu didn't like to meddle in other people's business. Although he was annoyed by the ruthlessness of the culprit, he didn't want to have a conflict with the culprit before confirming the identity of the culprit. It would be fine if the culprit was not an evil cultivator. But if it was an evil cultivator and he failed to get rid of him in time, it would definitely cause endless troubles in the future. He wasn't afraid of it, but he still had friends and family. It would be impossible to guard against the culprit if the culprit was someone he cared about. Zhang Xinyue's complexion was faintly pale. She was glad that Tan Xiu came to Qinglin County. If Tan Xiu hadn't come, her elder sister, Zhang Xinya, wouldn't have been so heartbroken. She wouldn't have traveled thousands of miles from Shanghai to attend today's luncheon in place of her elder sister. It could be said that Tan Xiu's appearance today not only saved her life, but also saved her elder sister's life. At this moment, upon seeing that Tan Xiu was about to leave, she hurriedly said, "Boss Wang, my work is done. Now, it's time for your company to sell the property. So, I'll take my leave first." Having said that, she didn't give Wang Shuigang any time to speak and hurriedly chased after Tan Xiu. Wang Shuigang was very frightened at the moment, but he was also very angry. He didn't know who was so vicious as to poison him, the guests he invited, and even the guests who bought the villa to death. He didn't care about Zhang Xinyue's departure, but Tan Xiu's departure made him more worried. "Please wait, Boss Tang." Wang Shuigang hurriedly chased after him and stopped Tan Xiu at the hall's entrance. "Our friendship hasn't reached the point where I can risk my life for you, Boss Wang." Tan Xiu shook his head. "It's obvious that someone wants to put you to death and even wants you to never be able to rise again. It's not appropriate for me to get involved in such a grudge. Listen to my advice, the business can continue, but you should find a safe place to hide." "Boss Tang, I know I shouldn't have dragged you into this, but I can't avoid it," Wang Shuigang bitterly said. "If the other party really wants to kill me, they'll definitely do everything they can to kill me." Tan Xiu said, "If you're really afraid, then dispose of your business as fast as possible and run away with the cash." "There's one thing I didn't want to tell you at first, but since your son is willing to take me to the Qingqing sect, I'll kindly tell you this: drunken dragon powder isn't something that ordinary people can refine. There must be a cultivator behind it. In addition, the cost of refining the drunken dragon powder was extremely high. It was difficult to measure even with money. Therefore, if the other party did not have a deep grudge against you, it was absolutely impossible for them to commit such a heinous poisoning act in today's society. Alright, I've said what I need to say. You're on your own now." "A cultivator?" Deep fear burst out from Wang Shuigang's eyes. He wouldn't be so afraid if it was an ordinary enemy who wanted to seek revenge against him. At worst, he could give up his business for the time being and hide with his big brother of the Qingqing sect. But if it was a cultivator, the Qingqing sect's people wouldn't be able to protect him even if he fled to the Qingqing sect. He might even implicate the entire Qingqing sect. Let's go to a faraway place. A firm look appeared on Wang Shuigang's face. He didn't like to be sloppy in dealing with people. Since the other party might be a cultivator, then he must go to a faraway place to save his life. Otherwise, he would lose everything if he lost his life, no matter how much money he had. Boss Tang, can I ask you a favor? You can rest assured that I'm not asking you to get involved in this matter. I just want you to take my son to the Qingqing sect and hand him over to my big brother. You don't need to say it, I'll take him there, said Tan Xiu. Wang Tao, who followed him out, immediately shook his head and loudly said, I'm not leaving, Dad. Someone wants to harm us, so I must advance and retreat with you. Idiot! Wang Shuigang angrily shouted, if the other party is really a cultivator, you'll only be throwing your life away in vain even if you stay. Without you in Qinglin County, I'll have nothing to worry about. I'll deal with my family's business as fast as possible and gather as much money as possible before I flee this place. I'll naturally find a way to contact you and pick you up after I've settled down. Wang Tao still wanted to speak, but Tan Xiu stopped him. Your dad's right. You'll only be a burden to him and won't get any benefits if you stay, said Tan Xiu. Let's go. Let's go to the Qingqing sect first and not affect your dad's work. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu and the others came to the parking lot. He immediately raised his brows when he saw Mo, Jinshi, and the others waiting for him. He had just fed the soup to the chickens and sheep and was waiting for the result. He had secretly ordered Mo and the others to go to the kitchen to find the suspect who poisoned them. Now that they had all come back, it meant that the result was out. We caught two, boss. Mo quickly glanced at Wang Tao and Zhang Xinyue and then reported in a low voice. Where are they? Asked Tan Xiu. Mo pointed to the window and said, they're inside. They're both martial arts practitioners and can be regarded as experts in today's society. Tan Xiu nodded in response. He then came to the car's door in a few steps. After opening the door, he saw two middle-aged men tied up in the back seat. They were bleeding from their 7 apertures and were paralyzed in the car, losing their breath. They're dead. Mo muttered to himself in disbelief. Tan Xiu quickly checked the two men's bodies and finally concluded that they committed suicide by taking poison. However, they were tied up tightly, indicating that they had embedded the poison sacs in their dentures in advance. Once they were captured, they would bite the poison sacs and commit suicide. This was a big problem. Tan Xiu looked at the two corpses with a headache. He never thought that he would encounter such an unlucky thing after attending the opening ceremony of the villa complex that he was unwilling to attend. Behind him, Wang Tao and Zhang Xinyue looked at the two corpses in the car with fear written all over their faces. One of them was a second-generation rich kid, while the other was a small business owner. They had never seen such a murder case in reality. How could they ever see corpses bleeding from their 7 apertures? If it weren't for Tan Xiu, Mo, and the others, they would have run away in fear. Tan Xiu, what should we do now? Zhang Xinyue subconsciously grabbed Tan Xiu's arm and asked with a trembling voice. Tan Xiu gently patted the back of her hand and said, don't worry about it. It's just 2 nameless people who died. I'm afraid there's a mastermind behind this incident who hasn't shown himself yet. Anyways, I'll send to send you back to the hotel first. You'll immediately leave Qinglin County after you meet up with your sister. Zhang Xinyue calmed herself down and suddenly realized something. She quickly took out her mobile phone and dialed Zhang Xinyue's number. After talking with the other party for a while and learning that her sister was safe and sound, she hurriedly hung up the phone. I can't go back to meet up with my sister now, Tan Xiu. Why? Asked Tan Xiu, confused. Today's incident is too strange. We still haven't figured out who the real target of the mastermind is until now, said Zhang Xinyue. It's better to be safe than sorry. What if the person they want to kill is not Wang Xuegang but me? So I think it's better to follow you first. Your sister. Tan Xiu frowned. Others don't know about our sister's situation. They won't keep their eyes on the hotel as long as I don't go back, said Zhang Xinyue. I'll inform my sister to leave Qinglin County now and go back to Shanghai to wait for me. I want to go back to Sishinya. Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly said. Tan Xiu thought for a moment and nodded. You're right. Let's do it this way. I'll send Gu Tao and Zhang Ju to escort this little girl to meet up with your sister, and then send them all the way to Shanghai. Since you're going to stay with me, it's good to use you as a distraction. However, we're going to enter the depths of Qingqing Mountain. Do you think your little body can withstand it? Zhang Xinyue was very satisfied with Tan Xiu's arrangement and seriously said, I can do it as long as you can. All right, it's decided then, said Tan Xiu. Gu Tao, Zhang Ju, you two take her and leave immediately. Don't stay in Qinglin County for a long time. Shui Sha, He Xiong, you two find a way to dispose of these two bodies and don't leave any traces. Understood. The four cupped their fists and answered. Half an hour later. Tan Xiu's group of 5 stopped at the top of the outermost mountain peak of Qingqing Mountain. As Tan Xiu lit a cigarette and just took 2 puffs, 2 figures dashed over lightning fast and quickly arrived in front of Tan Xiu. We've disposed of those 2 bodies, boss. There's absolutely no trace left, reported Shui Sha while cupping his fists. Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Zhang Xinyue and Wang Tao, who were panting at this time. Then, he said, let's rest here for the time being and continue our journey 20 minutes later. Tell me, Wang Tao. How long will it take for us to reach Qingqing Monastery? Wang Tao panted and looked at the northern mountain range and said, we'll reach Qingqing Monastery tomorrow evening at least if we follow this method. I know the way, but we may encounter danger on the way since there are many wild beasts in the deep mountains and forests. Don't worry, ordinary wild beasts are no threat to us, said Tan Xiu indifferently. Recalling Tan Xiu's identity, Wang Tao nodded and said, I'm not too worried since Big Brother Tang is with us. It's just that, we didn't prepare water and food before we set off. I'm afraid we'll be in trouble if we get thirsty and hungry on the way. Hee hee. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile and didn't speak anything. It's the same for us whether we bring water and food or not, said Mo Ao in a rough voice. In my eyes, this deep mountain forest is full of things to fill our stomachs. Chapter 828. Mount Qingqing was surrounded by peaks that were evergreen all year round. The peaks were like city corridors, and the trees were verdant and lush. It enjoyed the reputation of Qingqing is the most secluded place in the world. Walking in the mountains, the road was bumpy. With the addition of 2 ordinary people, everyone's walking speed was even slower. When night fell, the roars of wild beasts could be heard from time to time. Wang Tao had entered the mountain many times to visit the Qingqing Monastery, so he was not worried about the situation in the mountain at night. However, Zhang Xinyue, who had lived in the metropolis since childhood and had never stayed in the deep mountains and forests, was extremely nervous and worried. Can you stop following me? Tan Xiu went out from a narrow mountain path, while Zhang Xinyue followed closely behind him, as if she was afraid that Tan Xiu would leave her behind. Zhang Xinyue quickened her pace and grabbed Tan Xiu's arm with the help of the faint moonlight in the sky. While cautiously observing the surroundings, she nervously said, Where are you going? Don't leave me. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, Please, I'm going to relieve myself. You stay with the others first, I'll be back soon. Ah, Zhang Xinyue blushed. Fortunately, it was night time, and no one saw them. After he hurriedly ran back to Mo Ao and the others, he picked up a fist-sized stone from the ground and held it tightly in his palm. After a while, Tan Xiu returned to the front of everyone and looked at the dark winding path ahead. He then said in a deep voice, "Let's continue our journey and strive to reach our destination as soon as possible." "Shall we take a break first, Big Brother Tang?" Wang Tao forced a smile. "It's too tiring to keep walking on the mountain road." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment before he suddenly turned to look at Zhang Xinyue and said in a deep voice, "Promise me one thing." "What is it?" asked Zhang Xinyue, confused. Tan Xiu said, "No matter what you see when we enter the mountain this time, you must forget it after leaving Mount Qingcheng. You can't mention what happened in Mount Qingcheng to anyone. Is there a need to keep it a secret? By the way, you only said that you were going to the Qingcheng faction in Qingcheng Mountain to do something. What is it exactly? Also, is the Qingcheng sect like the ancient gangs?" Tan Xiu said, "You don't need to know about this for the time being. If you can promise me to keep it a secret, I'll take you on our journey. If you can't, I can let Jinshi send you back now." Zhang Xinyue hesitated and reluctantly said, "All right, I promise you." Tan Xiu nodded and quickly made a gesture to Moo. As Moo reached out and grabbed Wang Tao's shoulder, they quickly ran forward. At the same time, Tan Xiu also quickly wrapped his arm around Zhang Xinyue's slender waist and hurried forward. Ah, Zhang Xinyue was hugged by Tan Xiu. His manly aura made her heart beat faster. When the scenery on both sides of her flashed by, she couldn't help but exclaim, "Don't make a fuss. Hold on tight." Tan Xiu didn't stop and sped up again. A look of disbelief appeared on Zhang Xinyue's peerlessly beautiful face under the curtain of the night. The scenery that flashed past on both sides and the whistling sound of the wind in her ears caused her heart to be filled with shock. Superman? A martial arts master? Judging by her eyesight, Zhang Xinyue could tell that everyone was moving extremely fast at this time. She found that even the sprinting speed of the national track and field athletes was not as fast as Tan Xiu and Moo's group. 4 hours later. When Tan Xiu and the others stopped on a mountain peak, the blazing flames in front of them turned half of the sky red. In the mountain forest in the distance, there were countless roars of beasts and cries of birds. "What's that place ahead, Wang Tao?" Tan Xiu frowned and stared. His keen eyes had already seen some buildings in the raging flames. A bad premonition even faintly rose inside his heart. Wang Tao was dizzy and disoriented as he was put down by Moo. He retched a few times before he slowly looked up. When he saw the blazing flames ahead, he involuntarily exclaimed, "Heavens! That's the Qingqing sect's outer gym in front of us. Damn! How come there's a fire in the middle of the night? Who's there?" Suddenly, Moo shouted and his huge body suddenly pounced toward the bushes on the left. The moonlight shone through the gaps between the branches and leaves as his dagger flashed and pierced the left shoulder of an ambusher. "Enemy attack!" shouted the ambusher. A few ghostly figures flashed out from the surrounding bushes as Moo's iron pincer-like hand grabbed the ambusher's throat. Whoosh! In an instant, Moo retreated to Tan Xiu's side. He looked at the black-clothed man whose throat was clutched and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Hee. A few strange sounds came out of the black-clothed man's throat. In just a few seconds, 3 more black-clothed men appeared around him. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth and his breathing rapidly weakened. In the end, he died in Moo's hands. Suicide by poison? Tan Xiu's eyes turned cold. It was hard for him to imagine who in today's society had such a powerful ability to train a group of death warriors. "Who the hell are you, bastards?" asked the black-clothed man standing in front of Tan Xiu with a long saber in his hand. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and coldly snorted. I wanna ask you who you are. What exactly happened in the Qingqing monastery?" The black-clothed man sized up Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, "Don't poke your nose into other people's business since you're not from the Qingqing monastery. Today, our leader is going to massacre the Qingqing monastery. Anyone who dares to join in will be buried with the Qingqing monastery." Massacre, the Qingqing Monastery? Tan Xiu's expression changed. His figure flashed and appeared in front of the black-clothed man. He pinched the man's cheek and instantly released the long sword to pierce the chests of the other two men. "Oh, take the poison sac out of his mouth." "Affirmative." He quickly followed Tan Xiu's order and pulled out a fine silk thread from the black-clothed man's innermost teeth. A dark green poison sac the size of a grain of rice was pulled out by the silk thread. Tan Xiu casually sealed the black-clothed man's acupoints and coldly said, "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me who you are and why you want to massacre the Qingqing Monastery." The black-clothed man could clearly feel that he had lost control of his body. Even though he wanted to exert his strength, he couldn't even flick his fingers. However, the fear on his face only flashed for a moment before it disappeared. He then said in a deep voice, "You want to know the answer from my mouth? Dream on. You'll know who our leader is later. But when the time comes, you'll be in a state where you can neither live nor die." Tan Xiu flipped his hand and sent a stream of qi into the black-clothed man's body. He also cast a spell and sent it into the man's body at the same time. "Then," he said, "then I'll let you taste the feeling of living a life worse than death." Argh, a heart-wrenching and lung-splitting scream came out of the black-clothed man's mouth. He had lost control of his body and was trembling from the unimaginable pain. "I'm an expert in alchemy," Tan Xiu sneered. "Even a dying man can be pulled back from the gates of hell. I once calculated that it would take at least 7 days for a person to die in this kind of pain. But the medicine I concocted can let you live for another 3 days, which adds up to 10 days. So long as you don't want to answer my question, the next 10 days will be the most unbearable time for you." 10 days? The black-clothed man didn't want to endure it for even a second. The immense pain that seemed to come from his soul almost made his consciousness collapse. What was pain? What was living a life worse than death? It was the first time in his life that the black-clothed man truly felt it. Tan Xiu subconsciously took out a cigarette. After thinking about it, he flicked it to Jin Shi and said, "Blink your eyes a few times if you've thought it through and are willing to tell me the answer." "Yo, your eyes blink pretty fast. It seems your will is not that strong." Saying, he stretched out his hand and knocked on the black-clothed man's body a few times. When the man's trembling and the painful expression on his face subsided, he indifferently said, "Speak. Otherwise, I'll give you another chance in half an hour." The black-clothed man hurriedly said, "If I tell you, can you kill me immediately?" Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Men of death who are bent on seeking death. How interesting. Fine, I promise to give you a quick death." The black-clothed man relaxed and quickly said, "Our leader is a cultivator. I don't know who his master is, but he's an expert in using poison. They brought us to Mount Qingqing to take revenge on the Qingqing sect. I heard that the people of Qingqing school had killed 4 brothers of our 2 leaders." "Revenge?" Tan Xiu frowned. He didn't expect that he would be poisoned at the opening luncheon of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's villa complex for the sake of the red silk flower, and now the Qingqing sect was being sought for revenge. "We have to protect the Qingqing sect, but the most important thing is to protect Wang Tao's uncle. Else, if the red silk flower falls into the hands of other cultivators, it will be very difficult for me to make a breakthrough in my cultivation in the near future." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and killed the black-clothed man with a palm strike. Then, he immediately said in a deep voice, "Shui Sha, He Xiong, you 2 stay here to protect their safety. We're going to check the situation." "I don't want to stay. I want to follow you." Zhang Xinyue's expression changed and she immediately shouted, "Big brother Tang, my uncle and cousin are in the Qingqing sect. I want to follow them, too," said Wang Tao hurriedly. "You're all ordinary people, and you're not suitable to be involved in this kind of danger." Tan Xiu shook his head. "You just saw that we easily killed these 4 people, so it's more normal for people to die than chickens in this kind of danger." "What did you say?" Zhang Xinyue exclaimed in shock. You killed them." The night was too dark. Zhang Xinyue only saw the 4 people fall, but she didn't know that they were already dead. "Don't forget your promise to me before," said Tan Xiu. "No matter what happens in Mount Qingcheng, you must forget it after you leave and keep your mouth shut." Having said that, he took Moo, Jin Shi, and Shui Sha and bolted lightning fast toward the Qingcheng monastery. After leaving Zhang Xinyue and Wang Tao's line of sight, the 4 of them soared into the air and arrived less than 100 meters away from the burning Qingcheng monastery's outer hall in just a minute. Chapter 829. Standing in front of the raging fire, Tan Xiu's eyes seemed to be able to see the scene of the fierce battle before, as well as the figures of those people who wantonly set the fire. Murder and arson. It was a felony in today's society, and such things rarely happened. But Tan Xiu didn't expect that such things, which were often encountered in the immortal world, would actually happen in front of him. And it was because his enemies were seeking revenge. "What should we do, boss?" A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He had received cruel training since childhood and had risked his life for more than a decade in the flames of war. Encountering such a scene evoked his long-lost fighting desire. "Find Wang Xuezhong. I want to see him dead or alive," said Tan Xiu. "We've never seen Wang Xuezhong or even seen his photo. How are we supposed to find him?" Tan Xiu faintly smiled and his figure instantly soared into the sky. As he flew over the burning dojo, he saw nearly 100 people surrounding an antique building in front of him. He didn't hesitate and instantly appeared on the highest point of the building. "Who are you?" Several shouts came from the nearly 100 people as 2 ghostly figures instantly appeared in midair, standing in the void and staring at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu glanced at them. Although he was a bit surprised by their cultivation, he ignored them and looked at the courtyard below instead, shouting in a deep voice, "Who's Wang Xuezhong? Come out!" As he spoke, Moo's group of 3 also quickly appeared at Tan Xiu's side. At this moment, there were only a dozen Qingcheng monastery experts left in the courtyard, all of them holding their weapons and looking around. The entire courtyard was shrouded by an array formation, but an invisible energy protected everyone inside. Among the dozens of people, a tall and straight old man with a youthful face and white hair had a burst of light in his eyes. His voice was like a thunderclap. He heard someone calling his name and heard the enemies outside questioning him. He even saw the people who appeared on the roof, as well as the 2 enemies standing in the air in front of the building. With just a few words, he immediately determined that the 4 people on the roof were definitely not on the enemy's side. The enemy was seeking revenge. He and the remaining dozen or so strongest experts of the Qingcheng sect were almost in despair. But at this moment, his eyes shone brightly as if he saw a glimmer of hope. Taking 2 steps forward, Wang Xuezhong looked up at Tan Xiu and shouted, "I am Wang Xuezhong. May I know who you are?" Tan Xiu looked down at Wang Xuezhong and sized him up. He nodded in satisfaction. "Not bad. Fortunately, you are still alive. Otherwise, we would have to spend some effort. Tell me, is the red silk flower that your nephew gave you still in your hands?" "Red ribbon?" Wang Xuezhong frowned slightly, but still said, "It's in my hands." Tan Xiu asked, "You haven't used it yet?" Wang Xuezhong said, "No." Tan Xiu said with satisfaction, "Since you still have it, how about we make a deal?" Wang Xuezhong's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, "What kind of deal do you want to make, mister?" "I'll help you get rid of these people in front of you, and you give me the red silk flower in return," said Tan Xiu. "What do you think of this deal?" Wang Xuezhong's eyes lit up and he resolutely said, "If you can really help our Qingcheng sect solve the crisis and kill all these people, I'll definitely give you the red silk flower with both hands." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and looked at the 2 men standing in the air in front of him, saying, "I don't know you, but I'm a bit worried that I'll have some dealings with you. Tell me your origin, else you'll really have to sleep in this Qingcheng mountain today." The burly Bai Biao, with a scar on his cheek, coldly stared at Tan Xiu and said, "You don't deserve to know our origin, mister." I advise you to leave this place as soon as possible. Else, it won't be us who will sleep in this Qingqing mountain, but you. Since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for taking your lives. Tan Xiu shook his head. After all, there's a big gap between your lives and the red silk flower. As his voice faded away, Tan Xiu instantly took out 4 array discs and the 4 discs flew out. He instantly engraved the array pattern and pushed his hands forward, completing the 4 symbols array in just a second. After activating the 4 symbols array, Tan Xiu raised his right arm and shouted, "Draw the thunder and release the electricity." Suddenly, countless bolts of lightning appeared in the clear night sky. Without any warning, they struck towards the 2 people in the 4 beasts formation. Immediately after, a group of thunderballs emitting blue light quickly descended on the top of the 2 men's heads the moment the lightning bolts struck the 4 symbols array. Damn it! Bastard! Bai Zhen and Bai Biao's complexion greatly changed. Layers of flames appeared out of thin air as 2 fire dragons rushed out of the flames, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws to meet the lightning bolts. Boom! The dazzling explosion caused most of the people present to be temporarily blinded, and the deafening sound of the explosion made many people's ears buzz. There were nearly 100 murderous experts around the courtyard. Except for a dozen of them who had the foundation of cultivation and were able to stay safe and sound even though they were constantly retreating, the rest were shaken to the point that their blood and qi were boiling, causing them to spurt out blood and fall to the ground. Whoosh! 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 3 figures flickered lightning fast and quickly dashed to the side of those who fell to the ground. As their swords streaked across the sky, the people who fell to the ground were slashed by the sword lights. Crack! The 4 symbols array was destroyed by the violent energy, and the effect of trapping Bai Biao and Bai Zhen disappeared. But as the 2 fire dragons were smashed by the lightning bolts, the explosion of the thunder balls directly bombarded the 2 brothers to the ground. Their bodies were dyed red with blood. Although the 2 men managed to save their lives, they lost their combat effectiveness due to serious injuries. Who the hell are you? After Bai Biao spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood, he angrily raised his head and roared. "TSK, TSK." Tang Xiu sighed and clicked his tongue. "I never thought that such a powerful attack wouldn't be able to kill you too. It seems you're only a step away from breaking through to the golden core stage, no? But it's a pity that you can only die today. You don't need to know who I am, because I'm not going to go to your so-called hell. You'll never see me again." Bai Zhen struggled to get up from the ground and roared, "Sir, we brothers can find the red silk flower for you if you want it. We were too arrogant just now, I hope you don't mind us, sir. We brothers came to the Qingqing monastery because we have a blood feud with you." Tan Xiu touched his chin and asked, "Tell me, what kind of blood feud do you have with the Qingqing monastery?" Bai Zhen's eyes lit up and he loudly said, "Senior, we used to be villagers in Qingqing Mountain and were recruited by the Qingqing monastery to help them buy living supplies from the outside. They treated us 6 brothers very well at first and we were very satisfied. But a few years later, the Qingqing monastery's supervisor in charge of living supplies kept deducting our wages and often bullied us by relying on their martial arts. Once, my younger brother, Bai Dong, went to the Qingqing monastery to buy some oil, salt, soy sauce and vinegar and accidentally saw the Qingqing monastery's people practicing martial arts. That bastard in charge of living supplies said that my brother secretly learned the Qingqing monastery's martial arts and beat him half to death. The 5 of us went to find him to reason with him, but we were also beaten up. Since I was angry, I proposed not to help them buy living supplies in the future. I even said that I would tell others about the existence of the Qingqing monastery out of anger. Because of that, the Qingqing monastery's people wanted to kill us. We had a total of 6 brothers, and we were either blood brothers or cousins. In the end, they killed 4 of us. Only my 4th brother and I, Bai Biao, managed to escape and fell off the cliff. We were lucky enough to save our lives. All these years, we dragged out an ignoble existence and lived an ignoble life. We obtained a cultivation technique by chance and greatly improved our strength. Then we crossed the ocean and fled abroad, where we met our master, Tao Master poison. All these years, the two of us brothers have been thinking about revenge all the time. Senior, do you think it's wrong for us to come to the Qingqing Monastery to take revenge? Tan Xiu fell into silence. He could understand this kind of hatred. Let alone them, if he were in their shoes, he would probably be more ruthless than them. Originally, he wanted to kill these people in front of him, but after hearing the whole story, he couldn't bring himself to do it. In the courtyard, the Qingqing Monastery's abbot, Lin Tong, strode a few steps forward and sternly shouted, "You scoundrels are talking nonsense. That's pure slander. In the past, the 6 of you hid in our Qingqing Monastery and secretly learned martial arts. You even stole our Qingqing Monastery's ancient martial arts manuals, so we sent people to hunt you down and snatch back our martial arts manuals." Bullshit. Baizhen angrily cursed. We brothers may be hunters, but we never had any extravagant hope of practicing martial arts. We never stole your Qingqing Monastery's ancient martial arts manuals. It was your Qingqing Monastery's steward who personally stuffed that ancient martial arts manual into my brother's arms when he killed him. Although I was running for my life at that time, I saw it clearly. What? The Qingqing Monastery's experts in the courtyard glanced at each other in dismay. At that time, they only knew from the steward's report that the 6 fellows who usually helped the Qingqing Monastery buy daily necessities outside had stolen their Qingqing Monastery's ancient martial arts manuals, so they sent people to hunt them down. How did it turn into a false accusation? Baizhen raised his hand to wipe the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth and angrily said, "I don't need to deceive you, senior, nor do I want to lie. The reason why that steward wanted to kill us was not entirely because of the threats I said when I was angry. The steward's daughter fell in love with my brother, which was the main reason why he wanted to get rid of us. At that time, he said that his daughter must at least marry a high-ranking disciple of the Qingqing Monastery. Am I right? Mu Baizhi." In an instant, the eyes of more than a dozen people in the courtyard were all focused on a middle-aged woman in a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk. Tan Xiu followed everyone's gaze and also looked at the charming middle-aged woman. Chapter 830. A cold wind blew, causing Mu Baizhi to shiver. Her expression was extremely complicated as her eyes kept wandering back and forth between Baizhen and Bai Biao 7 or 8 meters away. Tonight, the Qingqing Monastery suffered a heavy blow. No one knew the whole story better than her. She was even more aware that the source of all this was actually her. The scenes of that year flashed before her eyes like a movie, making her feel distressed and difficult to breathe. The array that shrouded the courtyard had just been broken by Tan Xiu, Baizhen, and Bai Biao. She was also aware of one thing: this day next year would be the anniversary of her death. Now, she only hoped that the mysterious young man could protect the rest of the Qingqing Monastery. Mu Baizhi walked a few steps forward and her eyes shifted to Tan Xiu. Under everyone's watchful eyes, she knelt on the ground and silently kowtowed to Tan Xiu 3 times. Then, she said, "Senior, they're right. Today's bad karma is all because of what happened that year. I'm willing to bear all the responsibility and use my life to make up for my father's mistake and resolve the enmity between them." Qingqing Monastery's abbot Lin Tong's body shook and disbelief filled his eyes. The other Qingqing Monastery's experts around him were dumbfounded and looked at Mu Baizhi incredulously. It turned out to be true. The one who framed the 6 brothers back then was actually their Qingqing Monastery's people. Lin Tong strode to the front of Mu Baizhi and sternly shouted, "So to say, it was really your father who framed the 6 brothers back then? Was it really our Qingqing Monastery's mistake that year?" "Yes," said Mu Baizhi with a bitter smile. Lin Tong panted heavily and angrily said, "Then why didn't you tell us the truth back then? Why did you just watch our Qingqing Monastery's people chase and kill those 6 innocent people? My father locked me up in advance when he made the mistake." Mu Baizhi shook her head. "It was only until he released me that I learned about them. Hall Master, I've been unmarried for so many years. Even when my father threatened me that he would die with everlasting regret if I didn't marry him, I didn't compromise. Don't tell me you still don't understand. The one I love is dead, and so is my heart. The only reason I'm still alive now is to apologize in front of the 3 pure Taoist ancestors, to atone for my father's crime. At the top of the pavilion, Tan Xiu had figured out the whole story. After shaking his head, he looked at Wang Shuozhong, the deputy abbey dean of Qingqing Monastery, and said indifferently, "Give me the red silk flower first." Wang Shuozhong quickly said, "Senior, the red silk flower is not with me now. It's in my residence. Can you wait for a moment? I'll bring it to you with both hands as soon as I get it." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Oh, you 3 go with him." "Yes." Mo and the other 2 nodded and followed behind Wang Shuozhong, who was riddled with wounds, as they quickly headed outside. Tan Xiu looked at Bai Real and Bai Biao and asked indifferently, "How do you want to resolve this matter?" Bai Zhen and Bai Biao glanced at each other. Then, Bai Zhen shouted, "Mu Baizhi must die. She should have been buried with my brother long ago." However, the one who issued the order to hunt us down and kill us was Lin Tong, the head of the Qingqing sect. He must die too. We brothers may not be good people, but we also know that every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. As long as the 2 of them commit suicide in front of us, the enmity between us and the Qingqing sect can be written off. "What if I don't agree?" asked Tan Xiu calmly. With a resolute expression, Bai Real resolutely said, "If Senior doesn't agree, then we brothers can only fight to the death. Even if we die here today, we won't let down our 4 dead brothers." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and slowly said, "I received money from others to eliminate the calamity. Since I can get the red silk flower, then I must protect the people of the Qingqing sect. Now, I only need to ask you one thing, and you must answer it." "Please ask, Senior." Bai Real seriously said. "Was it you who sent someone to put the drunken dragon powder in the lunch at the opening ceremony of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's villa complex?" asked Tan Xiu. Bai Real's expression changed. He hesitated for a moment before replying in a deep voice, "That's right. We sent someone to do it." "Why?" asked Tan Xiu. "Do you know how many people will be poisoned to death if so many people eat the food? According to our investigation, the boss who developed the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's villa complex, Wang Shuogang, is the younger brother of the Qingqing sect's deputy master, Wang Shuozhong. Since we want to take revenge, we naturally have to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. As for those who have been implicated by Wang Shuogang, we can't care about them anymore." Good, good, good," Tan Xiu angrily retorted. "You can't care about them anymore. The reason why you and your brothers were hunted down was because you were weak. But now, you sent someone to poison nearly 100 people, and it's also because they are just ordinary people. In your eyes, whoever is powerful can control the life and death of others, right? If that's the case, then I can't let you live today." Bai Real's expression changed. Never did he expect that Tan Xiu would get angry because of some ordinary people. After a moment of silence, he questioned, "Senior, we are all cultivators, and ordinary people are like ants in our eyes. You're not a citizen of the state, are you? Why do you care about the life and death of those ants?" "We're all cultivators, yes," sneered Tan Xiu. "But you're also like ants in my eyes. Also, you're wrong about one thing. I'm a citizen of the state, and I have the right to act first and report later." As his voice faded away, Tan Xiu instantly raised his arms. Lightning bolts appeared out of nowhere in the clouds in the sky as electric snakes slashed down toward Bai Real and Bai Biao. "Outsiders can't bully this old man's disciple." An old voice came rolling from a distance as a large black net floated over from afar and directly enveloped the courtyard. Lightning bolts struck the black net and sparks splashed everywhere before disappearing. It followed closely behind. A doddering old man in a dark green robe with his hair combed into a bun appeared in front of Tang Xiu while stepping on a flying sword. Billowing green smoke spread out from his body and instantly enveloped everyone in the scene. Myriad Jiao Dragon Poison. A drop of transparent liquid silently stained Tan Xiu's skin the moment he held his breath to disperse the green smoke. The transparent liquid had a very strong penetrating power as it melted into Tan Xiu's clothes and skin. In just half a breath, it had already spread out inside Tan Xiu's body. Tan Xiu's complexion changed. A cold and bone-chilling gelatinous substance continuously spread out inside his body. It was a piercing pain and had a corrosive effect, making Tan Xiu feel as though his body was frozen and his muscles were about to be corroded. The senile old man laughed wildly and said, "This myriad Jiao dragon poison is a nidin of a Jiao dragon that has been stored for thousands of years in the North Pole Spirit Spring's frigid spring. It took me 2 years to refine it. Cultivators below the golden core stage will die if they get hit by it. Even if you break through to the nascent soul stage, your strength will be greatly reduced, so you're dead for sure." A dark scepter appeared in the old man's hand out of thin air. With the rising flames in the sky, the surrounding green smoke was instantly ignited, turning the entire space into a sea of fire. Tan Xiu's pupils contracted. Layers of flames wrapped around him, and the dark scepter instantly attacked him. Judging from the aura exuded by the old man, he was a golden core stage powerhouse, at least at the middle stage of the golden core stage. So far, he was the most terrifying powerhouse Tan Xiu had ever encountered. Get lost. The long sword was unleashed again, and layers of sword shadows instantly shrouded his body. When sparks splashed, the black scepter that the old man was about to hit Tan Xiu's head was instantly smashed, and the swift and fierce sword chi left a few bloody wounds on the old man's chest. What? The old man's complexion greatly changed. After moving a few positions, he quickly retreated backward. Tan Xiu's body shook a few times, and his internal organs were almost frozen by the cold aura. What shocked him the most was that more than half of the gelatinous substance that entered his body quickly drilled into his Naiwan palace. After he successfully forced the old man back, a roar suddenly exploded in his head. The brain was the Naiwan, and the Naiwan was the earth. There were 2 meridians that went down to the kidney essence. The essence was in the kidney, so it was called the essence, and flowed into the Naiwan to form the brain. Then the transparent cold substance exploded, and in an instant, a monstrous heat wave was produced. The instantaneous alternation of cold and heat made Tan Xiu almost faint from the pain. Boom! At this moment, in the moment when Tan Xiu temporarily lost his perception of the outside world, a heavy hammer whizzed over and fiercely bombarded Tan Xiu's chest. In the midst of the blood spurting, Tan Xiu's body was bombarded like a cannonball. He flew backward for dozens of meters before heavily smashing into the antique building behind him. Run! The moment they saw that Tan Xiu was blasted away, more than a dozen high-level members of the Qingqing sect quickly fled in all directions. Originally, Tan Xiu wanted to help them, but at this moment, a more powerful enemy came, and it was the master of Bai Zhen and Bai Biao. Although they wanted to help Tan Xiu, they also had the self-awareness that helping Tan Xiu would not only be of no use, but they would also lose their lives in vain. Want to escape? Dream on. Although Bai Zhen and Bai Biao were seriously injured and their combat effectiveness was almost at the freezing point, they forcibly used a forbidden technique at this moment. In just a dozen breaths, most of their injuries were healed, and they could also use 50 to 60% of their strength. And this strength was enough to kill all the remnants of the Qingqing sect. Puff! A long sword shot from the left, and at the moment when Bai Biao was about to punch a Qingqing sect expert to death, the sword directly pierced his neck and instantly beheaded him. Bastard! Bai Zhen's eyes were wide open. He gave up chasing the enemy and madly rushed to Bai Biao, holding him in his arms with both hands. At this moment, 2 ghostly figures appeared in front of him in an instant. Joint attack, sword shadows swept out like a blooming lotus. Bai Zhen hurriedly tried to block, but his arms were shattered by the sword shadows. In the next moment, a silhouette appeared behind him and punched him hard in the back. Puff! Bai Zhen spurted blood wildly, and his heart was broken. Chapter 831. In the broken building, Tan Xiu had just propped himself up with his arms when he spat out a mouthful of blood. The extreme cold in his body instantly turned into extreme heat. Even though his internal organs had been tempered countless times, he still felt extremely uncomfortable. Poisoned. Tan Xiu quickly sealed his heart meridians with both hands. He did not expect the other party to have the cultivation of the golden core stage. He did not expect to fail miserably this time. He did not guard against the other party using poison. He had already guessed the other party's identity. He should be the master that the Bai brothers mentioned before. Dao Master Poison. This bit of poison isn't enough to kill me, but, Tan Xiu clenched his fists and looked at Dao Master Poison shooting toward him. His figure instantly dashed toward the open window on the opposite side and rushed out of the window almost in a flash. As the attic behind him shattered and fell to the ground, Tan Xiu's ghostly figure instantly disappeared into the distant forest. Annoyance flashed in Dao Master Poison's eyes. If that guy was flying in the sky, he believed that he would have been poisoned and severely injured, and that Tan Xiu would never be able to escape from his palm. But if that guy went into the deep mountains and forests, even if he had the cultivation of the middle stage of the gold core realm, it would be very difficult to find him. I have to capture him. The lightning manipulation formula and lightning manipulation formula he used just now are much stronger than the ones I have mastered. If I can interrogate him, my strength will definitely increase greatly in the future. Dao Master Poison gritted his teeth and quickly chased in the direction where Tan Xiu disappeared. Outside the courtyard. After Mo Ao and the other two killed by Zhen and by Biao, they immediately rushed into the courtyard. What caused their expressions to change was that the entire pavilion had been turned into ruins, and the figure of the boss had disappeared. There was definitely a powerful enemy that appeared just now. There were two explosive forces just now. One of them was from boss, and the other one was probably a powerful enemy that suddenly appeared, Mo Ao said in a deep voice. What should we do now? Asked Jin Shi hurriedly. Boss was either chased and escaped, or chased away by a strong enemy. Mo Ao pondered for a moment and then said, let's meet up with Xue Sha's team immediately and then head to the north to search. Since it's a strong enemy, we must gather together in order to possess greater power. All right. On a distant mountain peak. With a worried look on her face, Zhang Xinyue gazed at the blazing flames in the north. On the other hand, Xue Sha and He Xiong wore grim expressions as they vigilantly observed the surrounding situation. Who is it? All of a sudden, Xue Sha let out a shout and instantly unleashed his flying sword. Mo Ao's figure appeared in front of Xue Sha and said in a deep voice, it's us. Where is Wang Tao? Xue Sha paced a few steps forward and said in a deep voice, some people from Qingqing Monastery just fled from the north. Wang Tao knows two of them, so he followed them. It's good that he's gone, said Mo Ao indifferently. How about this, let's head north immediately and search for the whereabouts of the boss. The worry on Zhang Xinyue's face turned more intense after hearing Mo Ao's words. She then said, why don't you go? I'll only be a burden if I follow you. We brought you here, so we can't leave you in this dangerous place. Mo Ao shook his head. Let's go. I'll take you there. North of Qingqing Monastery. Tan Xiu shuttled back and forth in the mountain forest at lightning speed. As he ran, his face gradually turned red, blue veins throbbed on his forehead, and his eyes slowly turned bloodshot. He had suppressed the poison in his body, but what made him helpless was that Dao Master Poison's myriad flood dragon poison contained a very strong aphrodisiac. He could suppress the poison, but he couldn't force the strong aphrodisiac out of his body. Snakes were lascivious by nature. He wouldn't be afraid if it was just the aphrodisiac extracted from a snake's body. But the aphrodisiac extracted from a flood dragon's body was enough to drive him crazy given his current cultivation level. However, what drove him crazy the most was Dao Master Poison, who was hot on his heels. He was confident that he could kill Dao Master Poison if he wasn't poisoned or severely injured. But now, Not only was he poisoned, but his internal organs had also been displaced, causing him to suffer from severe internal injuries. He had no other choice but to escape. At this time, he knew that his chance of winning was very small if he were to confront Tao Master Poison head-on. Even if he won, he would have to pay an extremely painful price. I'll remember this enmity. Tan Xiao gritted his teeth and sped up again. But as he sped up again, the aphrodisiac poison in his body broke out even faster. After fleeing for hundreds of kilometers and seeing that he was about to escape from Qingqing Monastery, Tan Xiao suddenly changed his direction of escape. Barely maintaining his sobriety made him realize that escaping from Qingqing Mountain in such a state was not a good thing. If he were to do something irrational outside, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, he took a big detour and dashed in the direction of Qingqing Monastery. Shit! Just as Tan Xiao was enduring the aphrodisiac poison and barely maintaining his sobriety, an overwhelming aura rushed over from the direction he was heading. I'll risk it all. Tan Xiao's figure instantly plunged into a bush. As he sealed off all his aura, he took out an invisibility talisman and activated it in his palm. Damn you, you bastard! If this old man catches you, I'll torture you and force you to tell me those 2 techniques. Tao Master Poison cursed as he moved lightning fast through the mountain forest. The distance between him and Tan Xiao was less than 100 meters, but he didn't find Tan Xiao at such a close distance. Instead, he quickly passed through and chased toward the north. Half a minute later, Tan Xiao put away the invisibility talisman and silently sprang out of the bush, fleeing toward Qingqing Monastery in the south. If he hadn't sensed Tao Master Poison's aura behind him, he wouldn't have kept fleeing to the north because Qingqing Monastery still had Mo Ao and the others there, while Zhang Xinya, Shui Sha, and the others were there to the south. He was worried that Tao Master Poison would kill them if he couldn't catch up with him. But now, it seemed that he didn't have to worry anymore. He only needed to meet up with them to escape to Qinglin County at the fastest speed. As long as he arrived at Qinglin County, even if he didn't ask anything, Mo Ao and the others could take him away and flee to other places. It's a pity that I don't have a sensory stone. Otherwise, I could use it to sense the existence of Mo Ao and the others and find them much easier. Feeling somewhat regretful, Tan Xiao sped up a lot again. Huh? Just as Tan Xiao was about to lose his mind and couldn't hold on any longer, several familiar auras suddenly appeared in front of him. In a flash, his spirit jolted and he dashed toward that direction lightning fast. Boss? The moment Mo Ao and the rest saw Tan Xiao's appearance, they all looked ecstatic. However, when they saw Tan Xiao's flushed complexion, as well as the blood on his lips and clothes, the joy on their faces froze in an instant. Take me with you and run. Run as far as you can. Tan Xiao's blurred eyes saw Mo Ao's worried face in front of him. He hurriedly ordered before he instantly lost consciousness. Oh, what happened to boss? Jin Shi came to Tan Xiao's side and asked with an intense worry on his face. Mo Ao checked Tan Xiao's pulse and said in a deep voice, boss's internal injuries are very serious. We must find a safe place to stay as fast as possible and then find a way to heal him. Shui Sha, take Zhang Xinyue. We can't hide anymore and fly to the south. Understood. Several people replied and flew to the south on their flying swords. Shui Sha grabbed Zhang Xinyue's arm and made her feel dizzy. The strong wind whistled in her ears and she couldn't open her eyes due to the strong wind. Only after half a minute did she manage to open her eyes with difficulty. When she looked outside, she immediately shivered in fright. Heavens! Am I flying? No, no, no. I'm not flying. I'm being carried by Shui Sha. Zhang Xinyue was an atheist. She never believed in demons and ghosts, nor did she believe in the existence of immortals and spirits in this world. But at this moment, she pinched her waist hard and finally realized that she was definitely not dreaming. She was being carried and flying, and this was the real situation. Who are they? How can they? 10 minutes later, Mo and the others flew over the ruins of Qingqing Monastery and the Sea of Fire. Suddenly, he felt his waist being touched. When he looked down, he was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He saw that Boss Tan Xiu's hand was touching his crotch, moving up along it. Something's wrong. Mo's complexion suddenly changed. He just felt that his boss's body was very hot, but he didn't notice anything unusual. But now, he keenly noticed that something was wrong with his boss. He had obviously lost his consciousness, but his subconscious was controlling his body and wanted to do something. Shui Sha was very close to Mo with Zhang Xinyue. Upon hearing Mo's cry, he immediately asked aloud, "What's wrong?" "If my guess is correct, boss is poisoned, and it's an aphrodisiac toxin," said Mo hurriedly. "What?" Shui Sha's complexion greatly changed. He knew that his boss's cultivation was very high and ordinary aphrodisiac toxin had no effect on him. But if it was an extremely strong aphrodisiac toxin, it would definitely put his boss's life in danger if it wasn't removed as soon as possible. Zhang Xinyue also heard Mo's words at this moment and a horrified expression appeared on her face. She knew how powerful the aphrodisiac toxin was because she once saw a female friend who was drugged. She could tell that she was unconscious and in pain. Shui Sha furrowed his brows and said aloud, "Oh, are you sure? Boss is really poisoned by the aphrodisiac toxin?" "I'm sure," said Mo firmly. "Boss's body is very hot, and he's subconsciously touching my body. We must find a solution quickly. Let's speed up and try to get to Qinglin County as soon as possible," said Shui Sha hurriedly. "Then we'll find a place with women and solve the problem in boss's body as soon as possible." Chapter 832. There was a cool and gloomy atmosphere in the dark cave. As the toxins in Tan Xiu's body were completely expelled, his serious internal injuries also improved a bit. Only then did he slowly open his eyes. To his surprise, the sky outside had already darkened, and the cool breeze brought along the fragrance of food. "Huh?" Tan Xiu turned his head. When he saw Zhang Xinyue leaning against the mountain wall with a dazed look, an indescribable complex emotion suddenly emerged inside his heart. What should I do? He racked his brains but couldn't come up with any solution. He was not familiar with Zhang Xinyue and had only met her a few times. If it was Zhang Xinya who lost her chastity to him this time, Tan Xiu might be able to accept it. But he had no way to deal with Zhang Xinyue at all. Being responsible? Not to mention whether she would like it or not, Zhang Xinya would probably be in great pain if she knew what happened between him and Zhang Xinyue. Furthermore, it would not be beneficial for Zhang Xinyue to be responsible for her feelings and might even become a burden to her. You're awake." Zhang Xinyue woke up from her daze and found that Tan Xiu was looking at her with a complicated expression. An awkward expression immediately appeared on her face. But it was only a few seconds before she quickly adjusted herself and said, "You don't need to take today's matter to heart. The reason why I did it was to repay you for saving my life." "I know. Thank you." Tan Xiu floated up and said. Zhang Xinyue felt a bit bitter inside. She had lost the most important chastity of a woman, yet all she got in return was a word of thanks. She looked at Tan Xiu's slightly apologetic expression and shook her head. "Forget it. You saved me and I saved you, so we're even. I hope you won't mention what happened today to anyone, and I naturally won't tell anyone about what happened in Qingqing Mountain. Let's just pretend that nothing happened after we leave this place. I promise you." Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Zhang Xinyue, whose body trembled a few times. Then, he suddenly asked, "You haven't eaten anything since yesterday?" "I haven't eaten anything since the night before yesterday," said Zhang Xinyue bitterly. Tan Xiu nodded without a word as he turned around and strode out of the cave. He then looked at Mo beside a boulder tens of meters away and asked in a deep voice, "Have you brought something to eat?" Mo flew over and respectfully said, "Boss, we were worried that we might alarm the enemy last night by starting a fire in this mountain forest, so we bought some food from the county town. Are you hungry? I'll bring it to you now." Tang Xiu nodded in response. As Mo took the packed meals, he asked, "Where's the red silk ribbon?" Mo spread his hand and took out the blooming red silk flower from his interspatial ring. Then, he said, "We got the red silk flower from Wang Shuozhong last night and found an unexpected situation. The two fellows who sought revenge from the Qingqing faction were killed by us, but the people from the Qingqing faction also escaped." "Did you find anything unusual when you went to Qinglin County?" asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "We heard the news that Wang Shuogang, the developer of the Golden Goblet Emperor Gao's villa complex, was killed along with several bodyguards around him. All of them had their heads chopped off and hung at the villa complex's gate. After inquiring about it, we heard that it was done by an old man in a green robe." "Dao Master Poison?" Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed as he nodded and said, "Since Dao Master Poison hasn't left yet, I'm afraid he's hiding in some corner of Qinglin County, waiting for us to fall into his trap. Oh, we'll hide in this place for the next few days and leave after I've recovered from my injury. However, there's something I need you to do." "Please tell me, boss," asked Mo. "I'll give you a list of medicinal herbs later," said Tan Xiu. "Take it to the Qinglin County Medicinal Herbs Market to buy them. If you can't find them in the Qinglin County Medicinal Herbs Market, then buy them elsewhere. Do remember to buy all the medicinal herbs I need within 3 days." "Understood," replied Mo respectfully. When Tan Xiu returned to the cave, he saw that Zhang Xinyue was wearing his clothes, yet it couldn't block her beauty and charm. He sighed inwardly and took out a folding table and chair from his interspatial ring. He then put the lunch box on the table and said, "Let's eat something first. I'm afraid we'll have to stay here for the next few days." Zhang Xinyue stared blankly at the table and chair that appeared out of nowhere in front of her and murmured, "Are you performing magic? Where did these tables and chairs come from?" "They're interspatial rings," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "That's what we cultivators use to store our stuff. I often sleep in the deep mountains and forests, so I always bring some daily necessities with me." Zhang Xinyue recalled that they could even fly, so she gradually felt relieved that Tan Xiu had some magical things. Having not eaten for 2 days, she was so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. As she opened the lunchbox, the fragrant food and porridge wafted out with a warm smell. She hurriedly drank a few mouthfuls of porridge before wolfing down the food. Tan Xiu secretly found it funny looking at her appearance. However, he was also a bit hungry, so he also ate directly. Fortunately, Mo bought a lot of food, enough for him and Zhang Xinyue to eat and drink to their heart's content. "I'm full now." After a while, Zhang Xinyue contentedly touched her slightly bulging belly. Having said that, she reached out to tidy up the leftovers and quickly got up, ready to throw them out. However, she staggered and let out a cry of pain. She instantly bent down and squatted directly on the ground. Tan Xiu quickly squatted beside her and held her arm, asking, "What happened? Are you hurt?" Except your big head ghost." Zhang Xinyue angrily turned her head and glared at Tan Xiu, scolding him. "What happened?" asked Tan Xiu with a confused expression. "Why do you look like you're in pain?" Zhang Xinyue angrily retorted. "Shut up." Tan Xiu was thoroughly confused by Zhang Xinyue. He racked his brain for a while and watched her carefully stand up. Only then did he realize the crux of the problem. He was a bit embarrassed because he realized that Zhang Xinyue should be having sex for the first time. After he unconsciously lost his virginity, she probably suffered a lot due to his lack of control over his strength and timing. "Send them out." Zhang Xinyue sat back on the chair and angrily said. Tan Xiu awkwardly touched his nose and then took the leftovers and quickly left the cave. After discarding these things in the hidden bushes, he found a thick tree nearby and cut it into wooden planks, quickly making a simple single bed. He then returned to the cave. Tan Xiao placed the simple single bed on the wall and then took out a pillow and bedding from his interspatial ring. After laying it out, he said, "We're staying here for the time being, so you'll sleep on the bed later. You don't have to worry about eating and drinking since I brought a lot of food with me. It's enough for us for a few days." Although Zhang Xinyue had seen many magical means of Tan Xiao, she still found it interesting. However, the relationship between them was a bit special, so she was too embarrassed to ask about it. A few days later, Tan Xiao took another holy healing pill and his injuries were finally healed. However, he was not in a hurry to leave. Although his purpose of coming to Qingqing Mountain had been achieved, there were still powerful enemies that he had yet to eliminate. In the past few days, Jin Shi had sneaked into Qinglin County many times and obtained a lot of news from there. Among them, the recent homicide cases in Qinglin County were frequently reported, and the people who died tragically were almost all Qingqing Monastery's people. Although the entire county was under martial law to track down the green-robed murderer, there was no progress so far. "Boss, 6 of the Qingqing Monastery's people who escaped have died. I'm afraid it won't take long for the Qingqing Monastery's people to die if they keep dying like this," reported Jin Shi with a bitter smile. "There's a cause and there's an effect," Tan Xiao indifferently said. "This is a mistake made by the Qingqing Monastery, and now it's just retribution. Originally, Wang Rui helped Viviani before, and she chose to join our everlasting feast hall, so we owe him a favor. It's a pity that we didn't see him that night. I'm afraid he's already dead." Speaking of which, Wang Rui is indeed a good material for cultivation, though his character is a bit exaggerated. Jin Shi sighed. It's a pity that he died in the battle that night, else he might have been able to completely calm down and achieve something in the future after the Qingqing Monastery went through such a great calamity. He's indeed a talent, but the Qingqing Monastery is his root. Tan Xiao chuckled. "If the Qingqing Monastery's people aren't dead, we won't use him even if he's still alive. You don't let your imagination run wild. A talent who can't be used by us is not a real talent." Jin Shi grinned. "Boss, your injury has been healed now, so when are we leaving?" "Not far away." Upon hearing it, Zhang Xinyue's expression moved and her ears pricked up. Her mood was very complicated. She didn't like Tan Xiao at first, even though Tan Xiao was indeed a good young talent. However, after the Qingqing Mountain incident, she even gave her chastity to Tan Xiao, causing her to have some special feelings for Tan Xiao. However, it was far from enough to say that this feeling was love. However, although Tan Xiao spent most of his time in cultivation these days, her eyes were always attracted to Tan Xiao. His every move and every word and deed made her care about him very much. Even Tan Xiao's apologetic and caring attitude toward her in his words and deeds made her feel unbelievably touched. Now, after hearing Jin Shi's question, she wanted to leave this remote mountain and old forest. But there was another emotion in her heart, one that she was reluctant to end the days she spent with Tan Xiao. What am I thinking?" Zhang Xinyue suddenly sobered up and quickly explained to herself with other thoughts. The reason why she wanted to spend more time with Tan Xiao was definitely because of his endless magical means. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.